listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
So, with the 29th pick in the 2022 Pay the Noise NFL Mock Draft, James Anderson, the Kansas City Chiefs select who? James Anderson joining us right now on Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City. James, let's talk running backs. Yeah, excellent stuff. James, we're up against it. We appreciate the time, my man. Fantastic insight and information. We're looking forward to talking to you down the road. Enjoy the draft.
Absolutely, man. You guys too. Anytime.
All right, there he goes. James Anderson, host of the Zone Midday Sports Radio 810 in KC.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I read a Thursday edition of The Zone or a Friday edition of The Zone, however it feels. I don't know. Got my Thursday format in front of me. I didn't turn the page to Friday. Had all this stuff that I wrote down for Friday, but yet had it on Thursday for some reason. But it is a Friday. How about that? TGIF, not TGIT. It is a Friday edition of The Zone. Jack Johnson hanging out with us. The Drake, Jason Anderson with you. The next 4 hours we've got you. We will hear from the Kansas City Chiefs an hour from now. We'll head up to St. Joe and hear from Dave Tobe. It'll be Nick Bolton at the podium, Elijah Mitchell, and Omar Norman Lott. He has been getting a decent amount of discussion, and it seems like a guy that is turning some heads at training camp so far, a guy that was a rotational piece at Tennessee, whether people liked the draft pick or not. Looks like he's certainly working in a lot with the ones so far in these first 3-4 days at training camp. Closed to the public today because of the weather. They are off tomorrow. Pads come on Sunday. So we'll hear from the Kansas City Chiefs at 11 o'clock. Matt Derrick will join us at noon from St. Joe, and we will get his thoughts and observations from the first week or so of training camp. We are less than a week away from NFL football being played. Next Thursday, well, I don't know how much it's NFL football. I mean, next Thursday, the Hall of Fame game, you will not see any starters, but that's how close we are to getting to football. So Matt Derrick will be our guest coming up at noon. We got the cuts before the show is over as well. Royals in action tonight. They finish this final stretch, these 6 games before the trade deadline. Michael Wacha heading to the mound tonight. Flo Rida on the mound tomorrow, I believe. You heading to that game, Jack? You covering the game?
Haven't thought about it. Not covering it.
Okay.
But
Drake, you covering the game tomorrow?
I am not, and I don't think I've ever heard more promotion for a single event than Flo Rida.
Have you ever heard Denny Matthews say the legendary Flo Rida before?
I have, but then when it was followed up by Ryan saying apple-bottom jeans with boots with the fur, I about drove my car into a ditch.
And coming up on Saturday is the legendary Flo Rida. Great lyrics like apple bottom jeans, and they've got those boots with the fur. Hangover, one of my favorite movies ever. Ryan, remember when we went to Vegas together in the off season? I was a little hungover. So the Royals, 6 games remaining. Cleveland in town, Flo Rida in town tomorrow for those that are heading out there. Oddly enough, like it's the first time my wife has ever been interested in going to a. Hold on. What did you say? Hold on. Flo Rida's playing after the game on Saturday? I'm like, yeah. Well, why aren't we going? Because I didn't realize that you were a Flo Rida fan. She's like, this is my college days, Jason. I'm like, God, I forget that we're 6 years apart sometimes. Yes, I think of Flo Rida as the soundtrack of The Hangover. If I think of Flo Rida songs, I think of The Hangover. That's what I think of.
Many hits.
Yes, almost the entire soundtrack. They might as well just had him a part of the show. But yeah, trade deadline coming up, and the Chiefs, the Royals and Guardians the next 3 days. Chiefs in action at training camp as well. Jack, did you enjoy your Thursday night off? No Royals, just hanging out, nothing to do, right? I mean,
I did. Although I guess I don't enjoy the off days as much as the players, because I get to a certain point in the night where I'm like,
what am I doing?
I kind of want to watch something. Yeah.
What am I supposed to be doing?
I want to be watching some baseball or just sports in general. And right now in this period, we got training camp, which you don't watch it in the evening unless you want to catch the highlights, I guess. But yeah, I still enjoyed it. It was nice to have some time off, but ready for the games to begin tonight.
Little man and I went to the J to play a little basketball at the open gym. That's what we did on our night off. The night before, on Wednesday, we were at the lab playing baseball at the lab. And then last night, we went to the J to play a little basketball. Tonight, we'll take some time off and watch the Royals. Drake, do you enjoy your night off from covering the Royals?
It was a weird night. It did not go as planned. I'm going to condense the story for time because it is lengthy. But I was going to go see Mumford & Sons last night. I asked our friend Misty that used to work, next door here, if she had some tickets. She said she had one, but it was a physical ticket, and I needed to go pick it up at her radio station, which is in Midtown. She said she'd leave it on the door for me. I'm on my way down there. Our old buddy Brian Truda calls and says, hey, the tour manager just called me, and they're concerned about lightning, and they want to be able to broadcast an acoustic set from backstage so that people in their cars can hear it if they have to take shelter before the show. And he said, can you, I hear you're almost at my radio station. Can you pick up the gear? Because I don't have time. It's 4:30 right now. They want this done by 6. Can you pick up this gear and get it set up and get them on the air and produce this backstage acoustic set with Mumford & Sons in 90 minutes? And I was like, I have never worked with your equipment before. It's there's all kinds of rush hour traffic. I don't work for you. Yes.
But yes.
Yeah. So they let me in, and I grabbed this equipment, and he kind of told me what to snag. I got out there, met with Misty. We got backstage, got everything set up by 5:40, and then they ended up not using it before the show because there was no lightning. But while we're sitting there, I hear the guys in the room next to us say, "Oh, we're going to be getting our Ted Lasso kit." And so I was like, oh, cool. They do the Mumford & Sons does the theme, so they must be sending some stuff from season 4 out. No. Then walking down the hall is Jason Sudeikis and Hannah Waddingham and Brendan Hunt and Juno Temple. They just come in, and they're friendly and talking to everybody. And they set up they're going to come out on stage during the show. And we're like, okay, well, that's kind of neat. And it's raining the whole time, but there's no lightning. So the show starts, and we start to tear down. The tour manager says, what are you doing? Don't there could be lightning. If there's lightning within a mile of the concert during the show, we have to send everybody away, and we'll finish up from that room on, you guys will broadcast it. We're like, okay. And they said, but you can watch the show from the stage. So I went out on stage and watched this show. I was dry. It was nice because it rained almost the whole show. And near the end, they played the Ted Lasso theme, and the cast came out and kind of sang along and danced and played, and it was really
amazing.
It was not the night I was expecting to have. I thought maybe I'd go to a concert and get drenched, and then this happened, and it was just absolutely incredible.
Imagine if the Royals had been playing, and you would have had to cover that game. And it's an experience you never would have known that you were going to get anyway. So you hung out last night. So I hung out with my son at the J. Jack hung out with his night off and just watching random TV. You hung out with Mumford & Sons and the cast of Ted Lasso.
Yeah, I mean, they were near me.
I count that as hanging out with them.
I did get to go through catering. We talked to Hannah and Juno a little bit on the way out.
Amazing.
Because they were drenched. And Misty was joking with them, you two don't look like you belong back here, and are you with the band? And they're like, oh, we wish, and they were just so nice, and
That's awesome.
and it was a good time.
That's cool. And now I look forward to seeing in the background of some scene from Ted Lasso, the Drake as an extra just in the background while they attend the Mumford & Son concerts in episode 5.
Maybe
that would be great. That'd be and you know what? Now you start collecting residuals, Drake. Now you start getting that check in the mail of 1 cent every 5 years.
That'd be nice.
That would be great. They are all over town, though. I continue to see pictures at the plaza and different areas of Ted Lasso and the cast in town. So that is, it's really cool that that's going on right now. I did not know that until Monday, that apparently that had been planned for a while. And people were like, oh, yeah, they had this casting call for extras. And I'm like, yeah, I've clearly missed out on that. Didn't know about those things. But I'm enjoying seeing all the pictures because now I cannot wait for the next season of Ted Lasso, because as I've talked about, and we continue to get more and more evidence over the years, but we talked about it in Tahoe with Rob Riggle being out there, and Michael Pena, we talked with him because he was one of my favorite actors, so I wanted to talk to him just in general, but also because he was at Big Slick this year. This was his first trip to Big Slick, And it's such a big event with celebrities and actors and people that come for the first time continue to come back. And that's what Michael Pena said, is that I will be back. We will be back. He and his wife. We're going to return every single year. It was such an amazing experience for us to be around the kids and to see giving back and to be around the Kansas City boys. And it's like, oh, yeah. So people in Hollywood know the Sudeikis and Rudd and the Kansas City guys. Like, they know because they are out celebrating as much as possible Kansas City. Like, there is such a civic pride and a love for the city if you're from the city. And I've always loved that about these particular guys. And Jason Sudeikis bringing that to one of the most popular TV shows in the history of the small screen, if you want to call it that. And with his Joe Arthur Gates stack shirt and, his other different Easter eggs that he puts into the show, and now actually filming here in Kansas City is amazing.
The amazing thing about it to me was, I'm on stage at a rock concert. You know how your Apple Watch will be like, hey, you're in a noisy environment. It didn't do that all night long. It never went off. And then at the end of the Ted Lasso theme, Jason Sudeikis went to the mic and just said, Kansas City! And my watch was like, hey, go somewhere safe. It's too loud.
It's too loud. It is great, man. I cannot wait. There's a lot of connections now in Kansas. Like today, Happy Gilmore 2 is out. It dropped last night, apparently 2 o'clock in the morning on Netflix. We found that out yesterday, that's when Netflix releases their 3 o'clock in the morning when it's supposed to be released on a certain day. Like, released on Friday, July 25th, comes out at 3 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, so 2 o'clock our time. So I haven't watched it yet, obviously. Looking forward to sitting down and watching that tonight, seeing what Travis Kelce's role is in it. I'm surprised that Travis Kelce is not part of the podium today. I really thought today would be the perfect day to have Travis Kelce with Happy Gilmore 2 being released today, to have him talk about some of the things, because it's no longer an embargo of what, he says or doesn't say, or jokes, or his character, or him being sort of a bad guy. I don't know that for a fact. I haven't watched it, but that's what we hear, is that he plays some sort of a villainous role to a degree. It'd be great to hear from Travis Kelce to be able to talk about it now. And when he wasn't really talking about it all that much. But we will not hear from Travis Kelce today. But we can go and watch that one. Should we do like a watch party starting at noon? Just play Happy Gilmore 2 in the background while it'd be like Mystery Science Theater. We can then have some fun with it, and people would love that on the air, right? And it's totally okay to do.
No.
Netflix is fine with it, right, Drake?
No.
You know all the rules. It's all. You know what? Should we ask for forgiveness?
No.
Than permission? Okay. Well, Dylan would have let us do it. So I'm saying Dylan would have let us do it. So whatever. Shane would have let us, Beards would have let us, Dylan would have let us, but Drake's all like, no, we follow the rules around here. We're not trying to get fined,
No, I like our license.
That's true. That's true as well. People drive without a license. Why can't we broadcast without a license? Come on, it happens all the time. 913-912-4810 is the text line. 6 games remaining for the Kansas City Royals, and trade season started last night, Jack. Josh Naylor went to the Mariners, the 13th and 16th best prospects in the Mariners organization. Now, they are a deeper organization, so that could be, depending on it could be the 7th and the 10th best prospect in somebody else's organization. You never know. But the Mariners have a pretty good farm system and a number of top 100 ranked players in their farm system. And so that trade goes down last night. I don't know if that will now increase the tempo in which other teams are looking to trade or not. Sean McAdam from Mass Live in Boston had the story, whatever you want to call it, that the Padres are very much making a strong push to get Jarren Duran. They offered, according to Sean McAdam, one particular report out there, according to this report, they offered Dylan Cease, Ethan Salas, the number 21 overall prospect in all of baseball, and another prospect. Not their number 1 prospect that's there, but another prospect. And according to Sean McAdam, that was, quote, quickly rejected from Boston. And if that's the case, then you kind of know what the starting point would be if you want Jarren Duran. And for the Royals, the starting point would be Lugo and Blake Mitchell. If you're wanting Jarren Duran, that's what it would be. Because Dylan Cease is a free agent after the year. Seth Lugo's a free agent after the year. According to MLB.com, Ethan Salas is the 21 ranked prospect in all of baseball. Blake Mitchell's, 28? at the top 100 prospects. Is that what I saw with the updated one for MLB top 100 prospects, that he moved up that high?
I think he might have been 30.
30? Okay.
30, yeah.
So either way, right around Ethan Salas in the 20s, and then you'd have to then sweeten the pot, whatever the they've got him at number 28.
Oh.
So number I thought I saw that this morning, but yeah, according to MLB.com, their updated rankings with all of the players that have graduated, up to the big leagues that are no longer prospects, the Cags and the Kurtz and the the Miz's. Oh no, Mizorowski's still on there, so he has not graduated yet. So when he does, then that would move Blake Mitchell up another spot as well. But it probably would start there. And then what's the pot sweetener that would make the Boston Red Sox agree to that deal? I don't know. I tweeted out this morning just to get sort of a temperature check of where Royals fans may be at right now. And it was Lugo, Blake Mitchell, Frank Mazzucato for Duran. Yes, no. The first response was yes. Second response was heck no. Third response was, you accept it immediately. You do this immediately. I am on board as I would make that deal as well. I don't think the Red Sox would accept the deal because, again, according to this report, Jack, Sean McAdam from Mass Live saying Dylan Cease, Ethan Salas, and a prospect was quickly rejected by the Boston Red Sox. So it would probably cost a decent amount for the Royals. It might be Bubic, Blake Mitchell, and Kudrna if the Red Sox are really serious about trading Jarren Duran. And at that point, I'm not sure that I'm on board from that standpoint because that is a pretty hefty price to pay for 3 years of Jarren Duran. But you're talking about a guy who is one of the best left fielders last year. Depending on which metric you look at, defensive runs saved or outs above average, he's good in defensive runs saved, bad in outs above average. Whichever one you look at. Last year, he was good in both. And this year, his numbers are down from what he was a year ago. But in his last 60 games, he is OPSing at 810. And what would pace over 162 of 43 doubles, 16 triples, and 20 home runs, along with 15 stolen bases? Like, what would you pay for that for 3 years for the Royals as a guy who will be 28 the rest of the year this year and then 29, 30, 31 before he is ultimately a free agent and ready to move on? You would have him in the prime of Bobby Witt, the prime of Vinny Pasquantino, and probably the last 2 or 3 years of Salvi on your team, and Jack Caglione coming on as well. You would be adding that into the mix for prospects that may not be up with the big leagues until 27, 28 in terms of Blake Mitchell. But what would it take? I'm not sure. Do you think the Royals, Jack, as they stand right now, do you think JJ would be in a position to where he would say, if Jarren Duran is available, then we are willing to dip in to some of the strength of the farm system, not a strong farm system, but the strength of the farm system, that catching and a couple of higher ranked arms to go and make sure you get Duran for the next 3 years?
I'm sure they would be open to it. In my opinion, this more so is on Boston's side. They have been very adamant about not really wanting a rental. I believe that with this Padres deal, assuming that it's right, is not because of Ethan Salas, not because of prospects they would include. It's simply that Dylan Cease is a rental. Yeah. And they say, is this a type of year that we want to go all in for a rental and give up an outfielder with 3 years of control? Maybe we don't want to do that. And another part to this that I believe is a factor is the Red Sox already traded Rafael Devers. And that was before they had, bottomed out or anything. They were still in contention. So how do you support it if you trade away Devers, your team's in a playoff spot, and now you trade away Duran? Yes, you need pitching, but that's why I believe the Red Sox really want a starter with years of control. It's why Bubic makes more sense for them. But I don't see the Royals making that trade and giving up Bubic because I've always believed that they view him as a mainstay in that rotation for multiple years. I feel that when an extension is time for Chris Bubic, the Royals are going to be that team to give it to him. But I don't believe that J.J. Picollo was going to put anything off the table. Yeah. But if you're talking to Boston I don't believe it starts with Seth Lugo. I believe if they said, hey, here's Seth Lugo, here's Blake Mitchell, here's, let's throw Blake Walters in there, or Ben Kudrna, some arm there, the Red Sox would go, okay, you're not getting any of our outfielders. Maybe you could listen to like Rafael or something, but I don't see that either. He's younger than Jarren Duran by a couple years and has more years of control. You might have to get, Garcia in AAA, one of their top outfield prospects, and the Royals would say, "Well, we're not going to do that. Yeah. We're not giving up
all that
for a guy that's not even in the big leagues yet." So that's why I believe the attention does need to go elsewhere if you want to get a deal done. It's just a strange market right now. Boston is not a seller. They want to stay competitive, but they're going to need to be floored by a deal to give Duran up. I've kind of shifted my focus more to Arizona, not because of the Naylor thing, but because it was reported they're looking to trade 5 or 6 players. And there's a couple of guys that aren't massive upgrades, but affordable upgrades that would also have a couple years of control.
And Suarez seems like the biggest one on the market right now, but you mentioned the arms that would be there for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Merrill Kelly, and, of course, Zach Gallen that are out there. The Garcia, who's in the minors, is 22 years old, outfielder. Just call him the Password, because that's his nickname. Because
hard to pronounce.
His first name is spelled JHOSTYNXON.
I didn't want to try that on the air.
Justin.
Is the J silent? That's the big question here.
Yostins?
That's probably closer.
Yostinskin? I'm not sure. Garcia. That's why he's nicknamed the Password. All right, so just call him that. It's like Jason Dominguez is the Martian. And Garcia, the 22-year-old outfielder for Boston, who, by the way, in AAA this year in 46 games is OPSing at over 900 and getting on base at almost 380. So, I mean, there's certainly some value there, but it wouldn't be you're giving up Lugo, Blake Mitchell, and another prospect for a AAA guy. You're giving that up for Jarren Duran, and probably more for Jarren Duran. But if you're looking at a AAA guy whose ETA is probably 2026, and you don't know what he's going to look like in the big leagues, you're not giving up one of your top prospects. That might be Lugo for him. Like, if you're just saying, like, what's it going to take if the Red Sox are, going to be moving him, then, you're not trading Bubic or something. That might be the rental player that they want. But like you said, they want more. That might be the rental player of a pitcher that they want, but not necessarily a rental player. Mitch Keller, who could bring back a decent amount because he's got 4 years left of team control. They, over those years, is like $60 million that they owe him, but he's got multiple years of team control. That's why he would be a guy that would be more coveted. Alcantara is under team control next year, which is why maybe he would be more coveted. But is that a good thing that he's under team control next year if he continues to struggle next year? So we'll see with some of that. But Josh Naylor getting traded last night starts this process, and we'll see really what the Royals are going to do and how much they'll be involved in this.
They have to be pretty involved, I would say, too. I don't see a world in which they sit back and let this market play out and then go, well, we just didn't really like a deal. Not saying they're going to force any type of deal, but something is going to happen here in the next 6-7 days that will definitely catch the eye of a lot of people.
Well, I said this yesterday, Jack, and I don't want it to be like if Lugo isn't traded, that J.J. Piccolo's terrible and this is awful and what a disaster, because he shouldn't be in the business of giving value away. Like, if you're going to trade Lugo, it's because you believe there's real value to that. They have said that they're going to try to be competitive in signing him long term, but as we've talked about the qualifying offer, I think he's going to get $50 million on a contract at least. So I think it's going to be like the Nathan Eovaldi trade. So I can't imagine he's going to sign for less than $50 million if he's going to sign a multi 2 or 3 year deal. I hope he gets $50 million because that would give them the highest level of qualifying offer compensation in the draft pick, which would give them essentially the first pick after the first round, Josh Hammond, that they had this year for Bobby Witt. So there's value in that. And I don't want it to be to where we've talked about this so much, Jack, that it's building up to where if Lugo isn't traded, it means that J.J. Piccolo is just a derelict of duties and his fiduciary responsibility is out the window, and it's Dayton 2.0.
It wouldn't be, right? Because they don't have to trade him. If you keep him, past the deadline, it gives you the power to negotiate before that opt-out day comes. It's the exact same thing they did with Michael Wacha,
right? Yeah.
Where Wacha wasn't really entertained to be traded because the Royals were in a playoff spot at the deadline last year. But before that got to that opt-out date, they were already in discussions. It happened right after the postseason ended for them, and they were able to get a long-term deal for Michael Wacha. If you trade him away, you can still be competitive in the offseason and try to give him that deal. But unfortunately, the minute he goes out the door, kind of opens up all kinds of possibilities. If you trade him away to, let's say, the Cubs, and the Cubs are talking to him, and the Cubs go deep into the postseason, he's a big part of that, you think they're just going to go, well, that was great, but bye. No, they're probably going to say, well, that was a big part of our playoff run. We're interested in giving you that extension. But if they hang on to him, I don't see it being an all-world disaster here where they should have gotten value, because if they didn't get the trade they wanted, there's no need to trade him away. This is not a rental where it's so obvious you're 30 games under 500, trade anybody with remote value, basically.
It's not a fire sale that you'll see from some teams. That Diamondbacks seem to be like, we're trading everybody.
Yeah.
All right, we are rebuilding this thing. We went to the World Series, we're fresh off that, but we're rebuilding a lot of this stuff.
I believe he is going to be traded. I believe it's probably going to wait, or it's going to be on the 31st. I think they are going to give themselves as much time to figure out who they are, because I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if they swept Cleveland and then took 2 of 3 from Atlanta, and you're now over 500, you're going to have a hard decision to make of Seth Lugo. Do you want to trade him or not?
We'll take a timeout. On the other side, I do want to talk about how difficult the path is for the Royals the rest of the way. It seems like, look, they're 4.5 games out. They're right there. If you just play a little bit better baseball, they're swinging the bats much better. I want to talk about what we've seen and put into perspective of what these final 60 games or so, 59 games would be for this Royals team, looking at what they've done while they've been, quote, playing much better baseball, and how that relates to how they make the playoffs. Also, Christian Wilkins has been released by the Raiders, and $35.2 million voided for Christian Wilkins. He is now filing a grievance via the NFLPA, Jones fracture, and the disagreement on rehab with he and the Raiders. So we'll talk about that and what that means, and certainly looking at free agency and things like that, because remember, the Raiders were going to pay anything it took to get Chris Jones. That's what we heard. The Raiders were going to pay Chris Jones, if he got to free agency, a ton of money. And that didn't happen. And he's a Kansas City Chief, and then they went and got Christian Wilkins. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone coming up next. by the time Thursday comes around, like if Clase and Quan are traded from Cleveland and the Rays make a couple of moves and trade pieces away, I mean, honestly, how much does that change the approach from J.J. Piccolo and the front office? Because they may look at it and go, okay, well, now we're kind of chasing only two teams, Texas and Boston. But do you have enough if you were to add then to catch those guys? And would that be the best interest of the long-term future of the organization to go forth this year? But looking at where they were entering July, when they had that really awful June. So they entered July. July, they've gone 11-7. All right, that's good baseball. You go 11-7 the rest of the way, there's a pretty good chance you can make the playoffs. Decent chance you can make the playoffs, going 11-7 each 18-game stretch. They entered July before this 11-7 stretch. They were 5.5 games out, and they were chasing 6 teams: Seattle, L.A., Cleveland, Boston, Texas, and Minnesota. They're 5.5 games out. At the All-Star break, since the All-Star break, they've gone 3-3. But at the All-Star break, they were 4.5 games out, chasing 5 teams: Seattle, Tampa Bay, Texas, Minnesota, L.A. Now, with this full 11-7 stretch, they're 4.5 games out. They're chasing 4 teams in front of them: Boston, Tampa Bay, Texas, and Cleveland. So they've passed a couple of teams, but while passing a couple of teams, Jack, going 11-7, they've gained 1 game. And the reason they've gained only 1 game is because Seattle's played well, Boston has played well, and 11-7, Cleveland has played really well. But in July, the Royals have if you look at July record only, the Royals would be leading the American League Central. So they're playing the best baseball in the American League Central. Now, they have made a dent into the lead that the Tigers have, but do you expect the Tigers to continue playing this rough of baseball and the Royals to play 11-7 baseball? That to me, there's a little perspective there of 18 games. They went 11-7, and they gained 1 game. They went from 5.5 to 4.5 games out of the wild card. It puts into perspective what the final 50 games or so would be, that you played this well, you're swinging the bats this well, you're scoring this many runs, you picked up a game in July.
You're going to need to have a long winning streak to really make a dent. And on top of that, you're going to need some of these teams to bottom out in the way that Detroit has.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the funny thing about baseball is it's why you can't fall in love or really over-criticize certain teams 2 months into the year, because eventually things find a way to even out. Where the Tigers, the best team in baseball, they had the record to show it early on in the season, but now you kind of have that regressing to the means. And for some of these other teams, it really comes down to what you believe they are. Do you feel that Cleveland is a 500 team? Do you believe that they are closer to what they were last year? Do you believe they're closer to that 10-game losing streak they had? Is Texas a team that is a wild card type team? Is Seattle a wild card team? And they just showed that they're willing to go out there and spend and buy and give this team a chance to compete in October. And for the Royals, do you believe they've got an 8-9 game winning streak in there? Do you believe they've got a stretch of winning 15 of 20 that can put you a game or two back from a wild card spot by the beginning of September? Those are all of the questions that the front office is asking around and saying, is this a year where we say, all right, we feel that we're playing good enough baseball that we go acquire 1 more bat, 1 more starter, 1 more reliever, and try to take advantage of a weaker schedule in the second half? Or after these 6 games, do you go, man, we could play some good baseball in the second half. We could play 5 games over 500, and it's still not going to be enough, and we're going to finish 3, 4, 5 games out of a playoff spot. But these next 6 games are going to drastically impact that. I feel I've said it before where we've looked at certain series and said, well, it's a big one, right? The Miami one was a big one, and they lost that series. Then the Cubs series kind of saved where they were at if you were trying to believe they're still a buyer. These 6 games, there's no denying it. You have to go at bare minimum 4-2. You got to win both of these series to, I would say, confidently put yourself in that category of we're going to try to make a push with this thing. If you go 500, I just don't know how you can look at 60 games and say, well, at some point they're going to go, 40-20 over these final 60 games. You would need to see a little bit more. Now, if they go out there and, as I said, go 5-1, the offense is red hot. You look at Hunter Harvey coming back soon. You look at Cole Reagans coming back soon. Daniel Lynch coming back soon. You can add at the deadline. Now you can squint and see a possibility of them overtaking some of these teams. And a big part of this, going 4-2, 5-1, you would be beating Cleveland, a team that you need to surpass here and jump over and then get neck and neck with Texas, get neck and neck with Boston and Seattle and Tampa Bay. And it will be an uphill battle. That's the difficult part about this, is there are so many teams they have to leapfrog. But if you want to remain optimistic, I'm not saying you have to, but if you want to go that route, I'm still not convinced any of those teams we just mentioned are going to run away with it. I really don't. I thought Tampa Bay would at one point.
Yeah.
They've now fallen back down to earth. Boston won 10 in a row. They've been bad in the second half, or at least early on. You look at a team like Texas. They were a few games under 500. The Royals swept them, and now they're a few games over 500. All of these teams just kind of swing on that pendulum, right? They go one way or the other. When you think they're red hot, that's when they fall back down to earth and they're really bad. And just when you think they're down and out and they're going to be cooked and they're going to have to sell, that's when they start playing really good baseball.
The fact that, what gives me a little more, yesterday I talked about that I would like to see the Royals sell, and I think they are going to, and I think Seth Lugo is going to be on a different team this time next week. I don't know what team that's going to be, but, we'll find out. That seems to be the consensus around baseball, is that Seth Lugo is going to be playing for another team. Jeff Passons talked about it yesterday on with Seren as well, one of the Final Four. Seth Lugo is, a Royal this time next week. No. But the fact that the qualifying offer changes things for me a little bit, because, one, if you trade Estevez, you could get something back for him. I mean, the Angels got a couple of decent arms back for Estevez last year when they traded him to Philadelphia, and that was a rental player. He's got another year of team control if you were to trade. Does it mean you get a little bit more? I'm not sure, but he's a guy that might be, valuable for you to trade. But fast forwarding to Wednesday, I'm trying to put myself in the position how I would feel if Kwan and Clase and another player off the Guardians have been traded, and Brandon Lowe and Fairbanks and Rasmussen for the Rays have been traded. Two teams that are ahead of you. So now you go, we have to catch Texas and Seattle/Boston. Seattle got better by adding Josh Naylor. What does Boston do? Who they may add, and what does Texas do, and who they may add? But that's what you're looking at, is you got to pass two teams. You'd still be 4.5 games out, or we'll see what they are at that time. But it changes the calculus a little bit for me if you take Cleveland and Tampa Bay out of the mix and you're saying, well, they're 4.5 games out and they're chasing two teams. A little different than 4.5 games out and you're chasing four teams. If Cleveland adds or Tampa Bay adds, then yes, of course, then it's different. Then I think, you've got to add just to keep up with the Joneses. But you take those two teams out, I think the calculus could change from the Royals' perspective, because again, it is not if you do not trade Lugo, you lose him and you get nothing for him. If you don't trade Lugo and you lose him to free agency, you will get something back for him. So it is like trading him, and you can see that, if you get some guys back from health and things like that. So that's where this whole thing is sort of in flux. And as you talked about, next Tuesday, Wednesday, I have a better feel for what's going on. Jeff Passan said last night afternoon, well, can I fast forward to Tuesday and tell you, how I feel? Because I'll have a really good idea of what the conversations are and what's going on. Because there are teams that are selling, teams that are buying, and there are teams that are holding and /following and seeing what the market does, and teams that are going to try to be opportunistic. And if Tampa Bay's opportunistic and Cleveland's opportunistic, does that change the math for J.J. Piccolo for him to be opportunistic a different way and try to go for it?
Yeah, I mean, there's also a world, too, where you can look at trading Seth Lugo and not admit that you're waving the white flag.
Yeah.
I believe
you could trade for a bat that has team control.
Absolutely, and I'd imagine that's what they're going to try to do if they are unloading Seth Lugo. It seems pretty simple, though, where you can evaluate Seth Lugo, what he's done this year, and look at your team. If you feel that there is no way that you can make the postseason without Seth Lugo, I feel you kind of already have your answer. That means you're more than a few pieces away. If you're saying we cannot make it if we trade Seth Lugo,
Right.
there's a lot of other pieces that have to fall in place for this team to make the postseason. But if you trade him away and you get a couple of bats, and who knows, maybe Cole Reagans returns 2 weeks later, that would be on the more optimistic side of it. But maybe you get an arm or two in return in one of these deals. You could play better baseball, see what Boston did when they traded away Devers. That looked like waving the white flag. It's not going to be our year. And they played really good baseball after that. They opened up some spots for guys and got some talent in return that could help them out. I'm really fascinated to know who they're negotiating with and who those players are being discussed. Because I've always hated it, too, when you've got GMs that will have a player like Lugo or somebody that's going to be a rental, and you're just asking for the moon.
Yeah.
And you know you're not going to get that. You're just trying to act like this player is super high value. We love him. And that can be true, but you're not going to get a lot of deals done. I don't believe the Royals should take things off the table if you can't get Owen Casey, which the Cubs have been pretty adamant about. We're not trading him for a rental. You should still listen to what they have to offer and who you could bring back, because you can have some faith in the Royals pitching department or scouting system and evaluating pitchers. They could find somebody like a Cole Reagans again. They could find somebody to replace the production of Seth Lugo. And that's how good teams stay competitive, is they know when to trade guys, they know which guys to get back, and maintain that slightly above 500 record.
Yep. And if Owen Casey's getting traded, one of the connections seems to be, Mitch Keller, because he's got so many, years of team control. But maybe it's an Alcantara in the outfield there. There's a number of different guys that have been talked about. Even Jim Bowden said, this morning at the Athletics, of the 6 or 7 trades I'd like to see happen that I would love to watch take place. One of them was Michael Garcia for Jason Dominguez, and said Yankees get Garcia and the Royals get back Jason Dominguez, and he's their left fielder for the future. I'm like, okay. So that was one of those. There was a bunch of other ones that he listed as well that I would love to see, and it was like he had 3-team trades and things like that all mixed in there. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling more zone next. All right, men, if you're out there and you happen to be suffering from erectile dysfunction, there is no need to wait. There is no need to delay trying to get this thing figured out. It may not simply solve itself on its own, and maybe you've tried pills or the herbals. If they're working, hey, that's fine. If not, if they have failed, well, Heartland Men's Health is here to tell you that they've got treatments that work when that happens. In fact, they have treatments with success rates well over 90%. Sometimes men wait months, even years, for them to go and seek treatment. There is no reason to do that. Just simply schedule a consult with Heartland Men's Health today. Your initial visit is only $99, and that includes a medical consult with a licensed medical provider, a T and PSA test, and a medically advised test dose. And if the test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. They have an expert staff with 3 locations to serve you: Overland Park, Independence between Blue Springs and Lee Summit, and North Kansas City. Call them today at 844-447-6600. Tell them you heard about it right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, 844-447-6600, or visit heartlandmenshealth.com. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Practice is getting ready to wrap up there in St. Joe. Told that the media has been sent to the tent. Get to the tent. Not the chopper, but the tent. So we'll hear from, it'll be Dave Tobe, it'll be Nick Bolton, Elijah Mitchell, and Omar Norman Lott. So we're looking forward to hearing from them. Omar Norman Lott has gotten a lot of run and tweets and things written about him for what people are seeing from him. There's not much you can take away from watching guys that aren't in pads yet. But what the takeaway is, he's working a lot in with the ones next to Chris Jones. And if that's the case, if they think like that is what his future is going to be, hey, great, especially if he's ready to go, soon. Because people were not happy with the fact that, you got a rotational piece in the second round, a guy who was rotating in college at defensive tackle in the second round. Well, we'll see. But I'm excited for what Omar Norman Lott can bring. So we'll see. And by the way, we won't hear from Jalen Royals, but he's a guy that people are talking a lot about too. So that's exciting as well. We'll take a timeout. We'll hear from the Chiefs coming up next. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. The Drake. We'll hang out with Matt Derrick coming up at noon. He'll be in St. Joe still. We'll be here. Chiefs are in St. Joe. Day off tomorrow. Closed practice today. Those people with tickets, hopefully, were notified that the practice was altered today because of the rain. I'm assuming, even though they practiced outside today, I'm assuming it was closed because of the weather, because if lightning happens, you don't want people that are there around the metal bleachers or anything like that. But also, if they're out there for 10 minutes and the weather hits and they've got to move inside, well, then all of the work to get everybody in there, to get settled, to get seated, now you've got to leave because they're going inside anyway. So no reason to take that chance. Just simply close it. And it's unfortunate for people that had planned to go up there today, you know. The weather has been so unpredictable the last couple of weeks, certainly in a lot of different areas and definitely here as well. But it is day number 4 of training camp, and some observations that we've seen from people up there covering training camp. Matt Derrick, will talk with him. Pete Sweeney, who's on the show a lot, says no change to the no change to the offensive line. Josh Simmons at left tackle, Kingsley Suamataia at left guard, Jalen Moore at right tackle. Said interesting things that he's noticed. Steve Spagnuolo was rotating Nazeeh Johnson and Jalen Watson at cornerback 2. Elijah Mitchell got the second. He was the second back to touch the ball after Isaiah Pacheco in the rush period. And also mentioned, this is an interesting development, Noel Williams getting first-team action in 11-on-11 period today. That's of interest because, to me at least, Steve Spagnuolo yesterday was asked about Noel Williams because he said during OTAs and minicamp that, yeah, he's kind of swimming right now. You know, there's a lot that we're throwing at him, and it's kind of difficult for him, you know, right now. There's some things that he's going to have to improve on, things that he's going to have to get better at. And so that was something that sort of stood out. Because anytime you hear that, you're like, all right, what's that going to be? I remember last year, we heard some of the same things about Jaden Hicks. And it was, you know, early on, boy, we are not limiting things for Jaden Hicks. We're throwing everything at him. And it's going to be difficult at first, but through osmosis and studying and reps, he's going to be the better for it. And if that's the case, and same things for Noel Williams. We hear Steve Spagnuolo yesterday say, yeah, he's gotten better. I mean, he's in a position now to where it's starting to make sense for him because, you know, sink or swim, throw the stuff at him and see what they do. Can you survive? You know, we're going to throw all these things at you at cornerback. I mean, we're going to move you around. We got these different coverages. We're disguising. We're changing coverage after the snap. We're blitzing from this area. We're moving you down into the slot. We're sliding you back outside. We're doing all these different things with you in this defense that you're going to have to know because this is not a first-year install for this defense, for the players on this defense. Everybody is really returning outside of you and Christian Fulton. Everybody else is going to be back. Throw in a defensive end and a defensive tackle, but you're talking about the back 7 for the Chiefs. A lot of returning players, including, you know, Mike Edwards is on the team as a free agent, but returning from a couple of years ago. That you have to then acclimate to them. Everything's thrown at you. Steve Spagnuolo's first year, and one of the things we talked about with Tyrann Mathieu yesterday, and how great, how big of an impact he was for this team, was because Steve Spagnuolo was introducing the defense to everybody. So everybody was learning it. And not only was everybody learning it, but Tyrann Mathieu had to know it and then help other people. So you've got guys that have been in this defense for a while, but Noel Williams not. So I think that's an interesting development. Looking forward to talking to Matt Derrick about that, what he has seen from Noel Williams with him getting some first-team reps today. And look, some of this is just simply you get them out there, see what they do, see how they respond to those things. I don't put a lot of stock into individual reps when players are not in pads. But I do think there is value in seeing the rotational pieces, who's getting first-team reps and second-team reps because they're going through installs right now. They're getting things ready for the season. I mean, you want these guys to get as many reps as possible. You're trying to win a Super Bowl. This is not you're trying to get back to the playoffs. You want to compete. No, man, you're trying to win a Super Bowl right now. And you've got guys on this team that have been there, done that. You're not going to work guys into the first team just to, for charity. You're not going to do that because he's a nice guy. No, you're going to put him in there if you think legitimately he's got a chance of playing a decent, depending on his ability, production, and availability and health for others, impactful role on a team this year. But Nazeeh Johnson's a guy that, as I mentioned, Nazeeh Johnson rotating in there with Jalen Watson at the second cornerback spot. Maybe this is the year after ACL. Tears his ACL the first year back. He's still recovering, doesn't have his legs the way that he did before he tore his ACL. The Turk Wharton conversation. Maybe that's this year we talk about Nazeeh Johnson. I know this about Nazeeh Johnson and what is clear over the last couple of years. I think Steve Spagnuolo really likes Nazeeh Johnson because, man, he has been trying to get that thing to work. 2 years ago in training camp, it was like, hey, Nazeeh Johnson was running with the ones. He was going to be a starter, then he tears his ACL. Then last year, Nazeeh Johnson looks so good, man. He looks so good. Remember, Nazeeh was going to start last year. And then we see him throughout the year, and it's like, man, he keeps, is he only playing because guys are injured? And now you've got, Nazeeh Johnson again this year. I think Steve Spagnuolo really likes him. And because of that, I hope he's fully healthy and plays well. How much he'll play if everybody else is healthy, specifically Christian Fulton, who's on the PUP list right now and still not practicing. Jawan Taylor still not practicing. Trey Watson, backup tight end, still not practicing. So those guys and their availability, how much does that impact it? Certainly. But you're in a better position, the Chiefs are this year, I think, than they were a year ago. In fact, I know than they were a year ago with the depth that they have at that position, because I like the Christian Fulton signing and the Noel Williams pick. And that adds into the players that they already had last year that they still have this year. I mean, you had last year, it's Trent McDuffie, and it's Jalen Watson, and it's Joshua Williams, and it's Nazeeh Johnson. And then Shamari Connor at the slot, and maybe Christian Roland Wallace that came on, and Nick Jones and different players that were thrown into the mix. Well, you take those same players and add Christian Fulton and add Noel Williams. They're in a much better position now than they were a year ago. It's why I continue to say, I think people, maybe this is being close to the situation and viewing it from the Kansas City perspective, but I really do think people are missing the boat on this Chiefs team. Not locally, certainly, but nationally. Those that are looking at this team and not picking them to either win the West or make a run, or this is like the 7th or 8th best team in the NFL. This Chiefs roster is better than what it was last year. The defense is, roster-wise, right now on paper, better than what it was last year. What will need to happen for that to be the case is, one, health, and Jaden Hicks in Justin Reed's spot. Because Justin Reed was pretty damn influential for this team, and losing him is a loss. It is a step backwards. But if Jaden Hicks can step up and fill that void, maybe not even to the level of Justin Reed, even if it's 90% of Justin Reed. Because if you're 90% of Justin Reed and you're 115, 120, 125% cornerback room than what you were a year ago, well, then you're better for it. Turk Wharton's gone. Omar Norman Light, you're hoping will fill in that spot. You add in Ashton Gelati along with Charles Omenihu returning as well. The personnel-wise, defensively, they are better. Nick Bolton is back. Drew Tranquil there. Leo Chenal. Same guys they had a year ago. And if this defense, it's really funny to me, those that would discount nationally the Chiefs while discounting Patrick Mahomes and saying, well, yeah, but Mahomes was carried by the defense. The only reason the Chiefs were that good that last year is because Mahomes was carried by the defense and the refs, whatever, loser. Mahomes was carried by the defense, yet the defense is better this year. So if Mahomes was carried by the defense and the defense personnel-wise is better this year, then how would they have taken a step back in anybody's mind except for the recency bias and watching the game against the Eagles and the recipe for a blowout when I do think those two teams were much closer talent-wise than that one game indicates. If the Chiefs played that game again, and I wish last year the schedule could have changed and the Chiefs could have played the Eagles in the regular season last year. That would have been nice if they did that. Because I think the Chiefs would have had a pretty decent idea of what the Eagles were offering, and I don't think the game plan would have been the game plan in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. Because I can't imagine Andy Reid continually saying, hey, let's throw these longer developing plays out there with this offensive line. And maybe Patrick Mahomes would have a better feel of what that defensive line was doing rather than what happened in that game where early on you saw some of the pressure, but make no mistake about it, Mahomes bore some of the responsibility to that, but with the caveat of it's understandable because he was under constant pressure. So in plays where we can specifically take out and look at this one play and analyze it in a vacuum and say, look what Patrick Mahomes did here. He should have stepped up in the pocket. Why did he gain depth? Well, look at Mahomes on this one. He stepped up in the pocket and he ran into pressure. Why didn't he gain depth there? Well, why did he gain depth the one before? Why didn't he do it this time? Well, you're taking two individual plays from different points in the game, and what you're probably not including is what happened the two plays before. Because we had on Ted Wynn from The Athletic on Wednesday, or Tuesday, whichever day we had him on. And he wrote at The Athletic about how the Chiefs can get back to the explosive passing game. We've talked a lot about that Xavier Worthy touchdown at the end of the game there against the Eagles. But the play he used was a sack. And I appreciate him using that play. It was the first possession of the second half, down 24-0 to the Eagles, and things getting out of hand. Mahomes had just been sacked on first down or second down. It was a loss of one because somebody won around the edge, and Mahomes then had to tuck it really quick, try to get some yards up the middle, and he was sacked for a loss of one. The very next play, it was either 2nd and 11 or 3rd and 11, and it's the play that Ted Wynn had highlighted. And again, this is the point of taking one play, taking it out of context, and using it specifically and saying, well, here's how you can improve from last year if A, B, C, and D happen. Because on that play, it was the perfect attack against the defense the Eagles ran. The Eagles ran the quarters defense deep, and Xavier Worthy was streaking wide open down the field. But Mahomes was already under duress and had stepped up, and what ended up being stepping up into pressure. And it's like, man, if he could have just gained depth. Okay, well, the play before he did, and he got sacked. So the very next play, you expect him to expect us to, now he's just going to trust that that's not going to happen? So, yeah, individually, let's play that play over and have Mahomes do something different. It's a touchdown. But it doesn't work like that. It's the course of the game, the season, a stretch of time of whether or not you have trust in your offensive line. And I don't know that Andy Reid would have that same game plan this year or in the Super Bowl, one, if he had to do it over again, and two, if he had played the Eagles earlier in the year. I think things could have been different at that point. May have still lost, but not to the point where it was that much of a decisive victory where people are looking at this Chiefs team and saying, well, they're bad. They're pretty bad. It's that they've just taken a huge step back. That Chiefs dynasty is over. We're going to hear from Dave Tope here very quickly. No new injuries. So the same guys that were on the PUP list, same guys that missed. Nothing happening in practice today. This is the time where you don't want news from practice. This is the time where Practice is starting, and you hold your breath that no news comes out of practice. Practice is over, no injuries, great. Here's Dave Tope.
Go ahead, fire away.
Dave, can you just take us through right now the competition at punt returner and also kickoff returner?
Right now, I mean, it's so early right now, obviously, but punt returner, I'm excited about Rashard. You know, he keeps getting better and better. Didn't do it, a lot in college, so this is it's new for him, but he's really a good catcher, and then obviously Nico just keeps getting better and better every day. I mean, he doesn't make any mistakes. He'll catch every ball. He's dependable. And Worthy, he's working back there as well. That's going to be a big question whether I can use him or not. Obviously, I'd love to have him back there, especially in certain situations, because he's that guy that can really be dynamic with his top end speed. But obviously, it's all going to depend on what's going on with Rasheed. So, and then other guys that are in there are all doing a good job. They're all working hard, and it's going to be it's going to take the preseason games to make a real good judgment on that. But right now, Nico is far and above everybody else right now, just because he just keeps getting better. And as far as the punter situation, that's a big question. We got the punters too, but as far as the punters goes, it's a good competition. I think we have 2 NFL punters. I said that during the offseason. I still believe it. Matt has come in right now, and he's probably got the edge over these first few days. But I expect, just because it was new for Eddie with all the fans and everything, and I think Eddie will get better next week. But it's a real competition, and obviously we're going to take it into the games and see who prevails on that thing.
What's the most important thing you want to improve upon when it comes to punting?
I want to see better in the pooch area. We worked on that today. That was one of the things we worked on. I want to see him be more aggressive. Let's get the ball inside the 5. They can kick it high and make a fair catch at the 15, but that's not what we want. If a team's making us punt at the 50, we want to get them inside the 10, or even the 5 for that matter. So we want to push that envelope. Matt's gotten better at his hang times on pooches. We just got to get it down the field a little bit more, and that's both guys. They need to push the envelope, especially in practice.
What's the timeline to decide for punter? Do you think it'll be?
That'll come down. Like Veach might hit me up, like, hey, where we're going, because we're always right now we don't have any injuries, knock wood. I mean, we don't have anything serious, and we don't have to bring anybody in from the outside. As soon as that happens, you got 90 guys you got to work with, and sometimes you got to make decisions. Sometimes that issue gets pressed a little bit. Right now, we don't have to rush on it, so.
How much do you feel like that huge punting, short punting, really was hurt with Matt having, basically being out of football for 2 years?
Yeah, there's no question. He's gotten better at it, especially his left punts. Even in a normal situation, just being a lefty, it's natural for him to hit a right, a punt to our right. So it's getting that punt where he's able to hit it to the left. He's worked on that hard on his normal punts, and then as far as pooches, it's the hang times, and and he's gotten a lot better at it, and we got to continue to work at it because he is still young. Still young.
We're gonna go Neil, and then we'll work our way across. Last couple.
Neil.
There's 2 questions. One, the kickoff rules changed again.
Yeah.
How are you going to adapt? And 2, which coach on his staff should have been in Happy Gilmore movie?
All right, I'll answer the real question first, which is a good question because it's going to change a lot, with the new kickoff rule. If you hit a touchback, if the ball flies into the end zone, last year you got the ball at the 30. Now you get the ball at the 35. That's going to change everything. So teams are going to want to hit it into the target zone just about every time, and that means there's going to be returns every time. It means you got to cover every kick every time. So that's why we work on it. You see us working on it every day because it's going to be a big factor. Big influence in games is kick return and kickoff. So that's where it's going to change a lot as far as that goes, which is a good thing. To me, it's a positive change. It's good for all special teamers and special teams coaches because it makes the plays more relevant, and the fans are going to like it too because now there's more plays. You're not seeing touchbacks just because last year it was just a wash. The ball was getting to the 30, the kickoff, you might as well kick a touchback, get it to the 30. So this will be a lot better. As far as the Happy Gilmore stuff, I don't know. I wouldn't mind being in it if Angelina Jolie was in it. I would like that. But no, I love that movie. I can't wait to watch it tonight. I didn't see it last night. Those guys had a sneak preview. I didn't see it. Look forward to it.
Dave, you had such a luxury with Justin Reed as an emergency kicker.
Yeah.
Who fills that role this year?
It'll be one of the punters. Whichever punter makes the team. Those guys can kick. They can get us through a game in an emergency. Justin was better than those guys. That's where we used him. And then we used Justin obviously when the old kickoff rules, when he could bang it out of the back of the end zone. That really doesn't apply anymore. Those guys they're able to spike that ball in there, the punters. So not as big a deal. But I'm going to miss Justin for a lot of other reasons because he was our best edge rusher on field goal block. I mean, he was the guy that set everything up for Leo, so he was able to block it because you had to deal with him on the edge coming off. And besides him, being a great leader for our football team, we already missed Justin.
Which young players have jumped out that might provide special teams?
Yeah, the first one is Bassa. I mean, he's the one that really, the whole linebacking crew is really good from top to bottom. They're our leaders on our special teams unit, but Bassa, he brings the combination of being real smart and then his speed combo that he's able to run with anybody. He's faster than anybody in coverage, so I'm excited to see him. If I had to pick one, it would be him.
How hard is it to replace what Justin Watson did for you, and maybe who are some of the top candidates to do that?
To Justin Watson, you're talking about
on special teams and what he did.
you're talking about as a receiver. Yeah, as a receiver. There's other guys that are popping up, making plays on offense right now. Thornton, we're hoping he might be able to help us as a gunner a little bit, and then maybe in the kickoff return game, we're looking at him. That's number 2 on offense. He's kind of an exciting guy. I can't wait to see him in games.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.
All right, there's Dave Tobe. Turns out Angelina Jolie would be what would get him to be in Happy Gilmore. Interesting. If Angelina Jolie was in it, then I'd love to be in Happy Gilmore. They had a sneak peek last night as a team. How about that? That's interesting to hear. We will hear from Elijah Mitchell, one of the newest Kansas City Chiefs. Here is Elijah Mitchell.
Elijah, how's your first camp going? Man, going good. Real good.
How you feel coming back from all the injuries, body-wise? How you feel?
Man, feeling good, feeling healthy, and ready to roll, man.
Elijah, from your experience over the years, what's that build up and the day when you put on pads for the first time you get to hit somebody?
Repeat that again?
Yeah, for you, what's that first day like whenever you get to put the shoulder pads on and finally hit somebody?
Just same way it was before. Getting ramped up, getting ready to roll, man.
You're not in the pads yet, but now you've had a chance to kind of immerse yourself in this offense. What do you like about it? What stands out as far as the role for the running back that you feel like fits you?
Man, also running the ball, catching the ball out the backfield is huge. I did the same thing in San Francisco, so man, I'm excited. I'm excited for it.
What's been the most challenging part, kind of going through the beginning of your career with some of these injuries and having to fight through that?
Repeat that again?
What's been the most challenging part of having to fight through injuries early in your career?
Anytime you get injured, it's challenging, man, but it's part of it. It happens, but really, man, just once you get back out there, take it full speed.
Are there certain things the training staff is doing to help, with some of that durability?
Yeah, definitely. I'm on a little program every day, get my body activated and ready to roll.
What's it feel like to be a Chief?
Man, it feels amazing, man. Man, it's a winning program, and you know what it is when you come, and you want to be part of that winning program.
How does your skill set fit into this offense the way Andy Reid asks us as running backs?
Being able to catch the ball out the backfield and running the ball, man.
What's it like working with Patrick as a pass catcher? Particularly, have you had the no-look pass come at you yet?
Man, I had a behind the back my first week here, so one thing about Pat, you gotta always stay ready with him.
Elijah, just your thoughts on Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, just being around those guys.
Oh, they all beasts, man. They can do everything, so it really push you to go to work every day.
And then no fans today at practice. Did you guys kind of feel that, like there were no one out there today?
Man, we don't really dictate that, man. We work either way. So fans here, fans on here, we still work.
Thanks, Elijah.
Hopefully Elijah Mitchell is quick down the field as he is with his answers. That would be great. But feeling good. He's healthy. What he likes about Andy Reid's offense is running the ball and catching it out of the backfield. That's good. That's what he'll be asked to do. And got to be ready with Patrick Mahomes, a behind-the-back pass. Here is Omar Norman Lott. Omar coming.
Omar, now you've had a chance to kind of settle in and actually immerse yourself in the defense. How do you feel like it sets up for you? How does this team and what you're have to do fit your skill set?
Skip Spags does the best he can to put the D linemen in positions to win. And me learning that is just going to help me be a great player.
Who offensive line-wise has presented you feel like the most challenge so far?
Humphrey is a brick wall. No, I'm not laughing. Seriously, I say Creed.
Hey, Omar, you didn't sign with the Chiefs as a second-round pick for a while, but still were out there in practices. Just can you take us through that process and why was it important for you to still be out in practice with your guys when that was still going on?
Availability is the best ability, honestly. That's all I could give you on that one.
Omar, when you're going up against a brick wall like Creed and guys like Trey Smith, how much has that already helped you improve your game, your techniques?
A lot, astronomical. You're talking about these are some of the best guys in this league, so it's helped me take my level to the next step.
Omar, is there anything that you sort of pinpointed even before camp started that you said, I want to get better at this little by little throughout the training camp?
Probably just working my second move in pass rush and staying low in the run game.
How do you feel Chris Jones is helping you so far?
He's a great leader. He's hard on the rookies, and he's unforgivable with us, but that's only going to make us grow.
What's it been like for just the rookie class? I mean, usually there's a little bit of a bonding and everything. You have a roommate?
Yeah, Ashton Gelati. It's my dog. We're all cool. Me, Kozaya, and Ashton. We all study at night, get us all right together for the prior day coming up. Yeah, we're good.
Do you feel like you were ready for this? What you faced so far in your first week of an NFL training camp?
Yeah, I do believe I was ready, but, you know, it's getting back into the groove of things. You always have that, and that's kind of what this week was for, just to get us back into the groove. We come on Sunday, we get in the pads, and we're full go.
Sometimes it takes Steve Spagnuolo a lot to put rookies with the first team. What has it meant to been out there with the first team defense so far?
Can you ask that question again?
Sometimes Steve Spagnuolo waits to play rookies with the first team. What has it meant to get those reps early with some of the top guys?
I mean, it's an honor. I just got to use them the right way. And, you know, I'm working on not messing up and just playing hard.
What's it like having to prove yourself again? I mean, you come out of college as a star. When's the last time you felt like you had to prove yourself like this?
Freshman year of college. So I'm kind of like a freshman again. That's all it is.
There's a lot of guys in the past who have said, like, this practice is a lot faster tempo and it's sped up compared to college. Do you get that sense how fast things are going, especially how many reps they're giving you this early on?
Well, yeah, because this is a job now. These guys' jobs, my job is all on the line, so it's a different tempo and intensity with it.
You don't have a ton of downtime, but what do you guys do in the dorms or do for your free time the last few days?
Sleep and studying. There's no more time for nothing else. Yeah, nah.
Freshman again, you're back in the dorms. You talked about sleeping. Are the beds small? Are they comfortable? You guys are big guys. Is it comfortable in there?
I'm blessed enough to have a nice bed and it's comfortable. I went and bought a comforter. I got multiple of the vets comforters and air purifiers just to make it feel more homey. So we're doing good.
Did they give you that tip, like the vets and stuff, or?
Yeah.
Omar, what changes when the pads finally come out, which is 2 days from now?
Probably just a level of physicality. I mean, we're kind of already moving. I play a position, me and the O-lineman and my teammates, we all play a position where we're in contact and engaged every play. So it kind of doesn't really make a difference, but it just gets more physical.
Have you ever, in one-on-ones, if it is against Creed, experienced something quite like this, going against him?
Nah. It was like, I'll tell you this, I think it was yesterday. We had a rep, and he was like running that outside zone play. I was trying to move with him, and I was like, damn, like mid-rep, I'm like, damn, this dude he's a brick wall. He's solid, and he's a great athlete.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
That's awesome stuff from Omar Norman Lott there on Creed Humphrey. How about that? Like, we see some of the grades, right? You know, people talk about how good Creed Humphrey is, but I don't think we've ever asked a defensive tackle that's gone up against him what it's like to go up against him. And to hear that from Omar Norman Lott is pretty awesome. Brick wall. Here's Nick Bolton.
Hey, Nick, what did you see from Omar so far?
Yeah.
He's been running with someone with one. Seems like his back that's impressive.
Yeah, he's an intelligent guy. He comes in there, he understands where he needs to be in defenses, and
honestly, it's what the only thing you can ask for in the first couple of days. It's not physical. A lot of stuff is mental, chin to the hairline and getting aligned and not having mental mistakes and just kind of doing what your job is supposed to do. And he's been doing that. I haven't seen many MEs. He's trusting me, listening to the linebacker's communication, giving us visual keys when he gets it. And that's the only thing you can ask for at this point. He's been great in that department. I'll continue to see him grow. I'm excited for pads.
Being the single caller defense, what are your ambitions for the defense as a whole this season?
Yeah, we have a pretty good defense last year in terms of efficiency. We obviously want to be a top defense in this league. I think we got the personnel, the players, and the coaches to do so. That's about executing week to week and getting us up an opportunity to win football games, to help our team win, and ultimately we'll get back to the end game. But I feel like we could be the #1 defense in this league, and that's my motivation as we keep going in training camp.
So Spags again referred to you as the Patrick Mahomes of the defense this week, and said that if you weren't re-signed, he wasn't sure what he was going to do. When you hear him talk about you like that, how does that make you feel? What's your reaction?
Yeah, obviously it makes me feel good. I mean, Spags is that type of guy, man. We've been growing and learning over the last 4 years, each other and kind of figuring out what things that we do well and what our personnel allows us to do, and trying to figure out the best way to make our 11 play the fastest. And yeah, it's just super cool that I have a coach, a Hall of Fame head coach that believes in me, helps uplift me when I don't feel like I'm my best self, and I'm along with my teammates. So we're just going to keep building. Again, Spaz is that type of guy, man. Super loving, big-hearted coach, man, and he puts all that confidence in his guys week in and week out. So he kind of expresses me to do the same thing, and yeah, just a father figure for everybody in the locker room for us.
Linebackers are stacked once again. Adding Bossa, talk about how he's come along.
Yeah, just one of those guys. He's got a unique skill set. He kind of does a lot of different things well, and so as we keep building, he's going to learn his role. I was just talking like he's a guy that's kind of real hard on himself, trying to be perfect, and it's not the easiest scheme in the world to learn, especially as a rookie, learning multiple positions. So just kind of got to keep going every single day, kind of give himself a little confidence as we keep going. I know this off day is super big for him. They missed the 3 days with the rookie minicamp. I kind of feel like that's one of the things they probably would have been a little bit of importance to him, but he's going to keep instilling confidence with him. Keep giving him a little hope as we keep going. He's going to get better as we keep going.
What about the other two young guys, Cooper McDonald and Brandon George? I know Cooper had an interception today. How have those guys been?
Yeah, those guys also been doing great. Again, those guys playing Mike and Sam. A little bit easier when you don't learn one position, but I think those guys are doing a great job as well. Communication, getting guys aligned, and having these minute details in our defenses and the multiple defense isn't the easiest thing in the world, but they're giving communication, getting visual keys, helping D linemen out, communicating. Again, we haven't really put pads on, but that's the best thing you can ask for in this camp is getting the visual and the mental, chin and the hairline part. They've been doing great at that.
How important is the continuity of having a lot of returners to allow Spags to add on top of what you've done maybe in the previous 2 years?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things for us is that we had a lot of success in the last couple of years, and we kind of kept that same nucleus of coaches and players, and we kind of keep building. We came in OTAs. We didn't have to break stuff down to the very minute details. We kind of picked up where we left off, add some stuff here, change some stuff there. That feel like would make us better overall defense. But I feel like we haven't skipped a beat. I know kind of what you expect when you got a veteran group. A lot of guys play a lot of football together. You can kind of see that there on the field when communications and not having to yell out the signals because our offense got a lot of smart guys on there. So you start calling out the calls too much, they kind of can pick up on it. So being able to just look at each other, understand what we're doing, and kind of read each other's minds becomes huge. And I feel like we've been doing that.
Hey, Nick, you said #1 defense. That's a lot to go. What makes you see, or what do you see that makes you think that you can get there this year?
Yeah, again, our D-line is doing a great job. I think we got a lot of guys getting healthy. One of the biggest things is just having a lot of multi-defensive guys. We got guys getting back healthy, like I said, and yeah, we got a great coach, man. He does a great job of mixing up different stuff. As long as we coordinate our rushes and coordinate our disguises and stuff, we never get turnovers. I think one of the things that we could do a little bit better on is turnovers. That would help us with our defense efficiency. But we pride ourselves on minimizing points, negative plays, things that we all have the personnel to do so. So as long as we just keep building, we have to be able to do that.
What's your biggest challenge? I mean, you're proving yourself. You know the defense inside and out. What's your biggest challenge when you get up every day?
Yeah, man, just not being complacent. I got a lot of stuff that I still haven't done in this league. Won Super Bowls, that's cool, but individual success and all that type of stuff I haven't really accomplished. So I get out of bed every morning, want to be the best version of myself. I don't feel like I've done that yet, so I'm still striving every day to kind of do that, and that's kind of my motivation every time I get up for camp.
Nick, what is that first day like in pads when you finally get to hit somebody since February?
Yeah, man, you got some anxiety. I got some good anxiety, bad anxiety, whatever you want to call it. It's anxiety. You just have to go out there and just go hit somebody. I feel like it's been forever since we go out there and put pads on and kind of get physical and kind of do the things that linebackers do. So yeah, it's going out there, putting pads on. We're gonna have some little bit of anxiety, pre-game jitters, kind of. We get the first inside run, man. Get a couple hits in there. You'll be good for camp.
You don't play a ton of special team snaps, but what kind of a coach is Dave Toub?
Yeah, when I played special teams as a rookie, you understand Toub takes special teams as we say we pride ourselves on 1/3. That's 1/3 of our team. You feel that and the sense of urgency and the detail. Obviously, you understand that Toub's had a lot of guys go to the Hall of Fame and as a Hall of Fame coach as well in that department. But you could tell with the linebackers that we have in there, he put in a lot of linebackers in different spots, and he kind of gives them confidence to go out there and do their job. Special teams is not the easiest thing in the world, and he understands that. So it's also not the most sexiest thing in the world, but it's important and it's essential to helping us win football games. And we've seen that in the last years and the success we've had, especially in the big games and when we need it the most. So he gives the guy confidence, kind of a lot like Spags, to go out there and do their job, and you just let them have fun and let the personality show.
I think Coach on day one said a big theme was urgency. How has kind of the competition been between like the offense and defense and everyone so far?
Yeah, man. Again, it's the 5th day of being here. We kind of tell a little bit getting tired of each other a little bit, ready to put pads on from both sides. But yeah, it's been healthy competition. Guys are hungry. You can tell that guys are eager to get back. A lot of guys spent a lot of time in the injury tent last year, and everybody's getting out there and they're healthy. They're flying around, and a lot of healthy competition. It's something you can ask for. We can put the pads on, man. It should be fun.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
There is Nick Bolton, who's one of the best from the chin to the hairline, as he likes to say, just doing his 1 of 11. And special teams, offense, defense, third of the team, every single one of them. You got those. Nick Bolton, already back in midseason form from Nick Bolton. 1 of 11, chin to the hairline, and a third of the team. Love it. We heard from Elijah Mitchell, Omar Norman-Lott, Nick Bolton, and Dave Toub. We'll take a time out. What we heard from them coming up next. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. A couple of quick segments. We'll talk with Matt Derrick coming up at noon. Takeaways from the press conference there. Dave Toub was pretty interesting because he was talking about punt returner and kick returner, and he started off with punt returner, and he said he's really excited about Brashard Smith. And that's a guy that we've wondered about how much he would play a factor in a role into the special teams and the return game, because kick return, and he was talking about punt return, but kick return is going to be such a big part of the NFL this year, more than it was last year with them moving that touchback to the 35-yard line. I mean, you're giving a first down now. Giving 5 yards, all right, that's one thing, but now you're giving an extra 5 yards, so it's a freaking first down from what it was a couple of years ago. And so there's going to be a lot of people kicking it into that target zone, which means there's going to be more kickoff return, more kickoff coverage, and so that's certainly a big part of it. But him talking about the punt return in that he's excited about what he's seeing from Brashard Smith, a really good catcher, which, you know what? Maybe they trade him to San Diego, Padres, see what they can get back. Padres need a catcher, so and I bet he's good on the base paths too because he's very fast. But a really good catcher. Then talked about Worthy being back there. Nico Remigio, though, he said is far and above everyone else. But again, Nico Remigio is going to be a punt returner. He's going to have to be on the team as a wide receiver first. And we know about the 4 players that they have at wide receiver. For sure. 5 with Jalen Royals. Because you've got Rashee Rice, you've got Hollywood, you've got Xavier, you've got Juju, you've got Jalen. And then who? Is it Ty Thornton? Because Dave Toub also talked about how excited he is to see Ty Thornton. Maybe stepping in for that Justin Watson role as a gunner. But he's saying Nico Remigio far and above everyone else. Now, he mentioned Xavier Worthy and, having Xavier Worthy back there, and he said, that all depends on Rashee Rice. Yeah, we'll see. Because remember, Rashee Rice played the first 3 games. 2 and whatever. But he was out there for those games. And Xavier Worthy did not return a punt last year. So Xavier Worthy was not the punt returner, even when Rashee Rice was playing. So to say that, well, when Rashee Rice wasn't playing, then Xavier Worthy can't be the punt returner, that wasn't really the case. I really disagree with something Dave Toub said when it comes to the punting game. He was asked what you want to see the punters improve on the most. And he said, the pooch game, which I agree with. But his reasoning, I couldn't disagree more with that. He said, we need them to make them more aggressive. Try to get it inside the 5. Push the envelope. Fair catching at the 15, no. When we're punting from the 50, we don't want to punt it down to where they fair catch it at the 15-yard line. We want to push the envelope. That hang time is a big part of that. And I just could not vehemently disagree more with Dave Toub on that strategy. How many from the 20 to the 1? Anything inside the 20 is better than kicking it into the end zone. And I don't think the risk reward of the ball landing inside the 5 as opposed to the 10, 11, 12 is worth the chance of that going into the end zone and giving them the ball at the 20. That's why it's punts inside the 20 are measured. Now, punts inside the 10 as well, punts inside the 5, but you are trying to thread one hell of a needle. And his point being, and I get this point, I understand this part of it, the hang time is a part of that. So it's not to where you kick it and it lands inside the 5 and just dies. But he wants them to be more aggressive with the hang time. But how many times did we see Matt Araiza kick it into the end zone? And maybe that's the touch part. He had a couple of years off from football and not kicking in a game when the ball, it's one thing to do that if you're out on a field empty and kicking it inside the 10, the 5. But you've got guys rushing you. The snap is a little to the right or to the left. It's a little high. It's a little low. Then you've got to drop the ball and pooch it to where it needs to go. But give me fair catches at the 10 all day rather than them trying to get it inside the 5 and risking it going into the end zone, and now you've got it at the 20. It was a big issue last year. The Chiefs not getting enough value on those punts when they were at midfield trying to pin the offense deep, and instead they got the ball at the 20. Maybe that's the hang time part of it, but there were plenty of kicks that the hang time, and it was just landing inside the end zone. No. Don't be more aggressive. Be less aggressive. Anything inside the 20 is better than kicking it into the end zone. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. Just to put a bow real quick on that conversation about the punting, I think there is a level of risk reward. So, as he specifically mentioned, the 15, from the 15 to the 20, you're only gaining 5 yards of field position versus the opportunity and the chance of pinning them inside the 10 or inside the 5. That much I understand. So if I would rather Matt Araiza, Chaplitsky, whoever's the punter, to try to pin him inside the 5 as opposed to a fair catch at the 15, yeah, I understand that standpoint. But being more aggressive to try to get him inside the 5 all these times, I don't think that should be the strategy every single time. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Noon hour. 2 more hours to go in this Friday edition of the show. Pads come on Sunday. Off day tomorrow for the Kansas City Chiefs. No off days when it comes to covering the Chiefs from Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest. 41 is the Mike podcast. Matt, what's up, brother? How are you, sir?
Other than my shoes being caked in mud from rather wet conditions, fields were in great shape because they had great drainage. I mean, I didn't see any slipping from the players, but there was some slipping from Matt trying to get into the media tent. I had a good little couple of feet slide, and I thought I was going to go down, but I'm a game day player, Jason, so I play through it.
Here's the thing. I think out of just simply habit, had you slipped and fell, how many coaches would have yelled, "Stay on your feet! Stay on your feet!"
No.
I mean, just habit, you would have got that.
Exactly. So, you can't go down. If you end up on the ground, it's just, it never works out well.
As Drake said in my ear, as somebody walks by, they would just go, "Matt, you can't park there. You can't sit there for the press conference. You got to be over in the tent, man. Sorry about that. You're not there yet." So apparently that trip from the media tent to watch the practice to the media tent to talk to the players has been well traversed, I guess.
Well traversed, yes.
Yeah.
There was. I was funny. I think it was during Omar Norman Lott. I'm sure you could hear it, but there was one of the Gators with a trailer attached to it that got stuck in the mud outside the tent. So they were, to their credit, they were trying to be gentle with gunning the engine to try and get out of it.
That's nice.
And they quickly abandoned that and just realized, okay, let's push this thing back and start over. But there was a couple times Omar Norman Lott was like, "Yeah, can you repeat the question?"
I did hear that. Yeah.
Didn't hear why. It was because there were some stuck vehicles in the mud.
Nothing to do with what we've seen from the Chiefs, but just out of curiosity, when you tweeted out this morning that it was closed to fans, and hopefully as many fans as possible got the information soon that it was not going to be open to fans. Was that simply, just in case there's lightning in the area, you don't have to get them out after getting them in, or all of a sudden it starts raining and they move it inside and, well, sorry fans, you've been here 10 minutes. We went through all this process to get you in. Now you have to leave. Just don't even worry about that. Just let them know, unfortunately, it's not open.
Yeah, what I was told is that originally the decision was made to go ahead and close the practice and actually have the practice indoors. So that's why it wasn't even supposed to be outdoors. And then once they kind of got the weather cleared up and everything, and then they realized that it was not scheduled to rain during the practice, and the fields themselves were in pretty good shape. Andy was like, "Okay, well, let's just go ahead and go outside." So practice was canceled pretty early, and then they never considered it. Once they got into the process of it, they didn't consider reopening it because that was just too late in the process. They'd already shut it down and sent people home and weren't prepared for that. And luckily, because the tickets are digital, so it sounds like everybody got notified. There were just a handful of people that I ran into that showed up and were hoping to see practice and didn't get to. But it felt like a lot like a rookie quarterback day, those mini camps that they used to have beforehand, because nobody was there.
Yeah, I looked at the weather when I saw that it was closed today to the fans, and I'm like, oh no, because pads come on Sunday, but it looks like more rain tomorrow. But Sunday looks like sunny and about 85 around 9 o'clock in the morning. So it'll be hot for the players, but that should be, fans should be good to go for the first day of pads for the players.
Well, if the humidity is only maybe 70 or 75%, it'll be great.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, that's the big one, is because we can get into the sticky parts of St. Joe, and then it's for many ways, whether it's just the some parts of the city, and then also just the weather. So So you know what, Matt? Let's start with this. I want to talk about Karlaftis and the contract, and we'll certainly get into that. But the first 4 days of camp, how you feeling? Any general observations that you're seeing from this team? Any takeaways so far? And we can start to hone in on some of those things.
Well, I was going to say, you mentioned Karlaftis. I'll start right there because I think he's looked really good in the first 4 days. I mean, once again, no pads, but it's just so at this point you're just using your footwork, you're using your hands, you're just moving around. You're during team periods, you're using your instincts and seeing what you got. and he's looked really good. There was a couple of plays that he forced Mahomes by just being in the right place. One day, Mahomes got a little bit the better of him. He pump faked and got George to elevate, but I mean, Karlaftis came back on the ground and pursued Mahomes and forced him to go the other direction. Play turned out to be an incompletion, and you give credit to Karlaftis on that one. Yesterday, did the same thing, except this time, when Mahomes tried to pull the ball back on the pump fake, ball came out. So that dead play in a live game, I think probably would have been a fumble, not an incompletion. So yeah, there's Karlaftis has been looking good, and today, let me see. I'm trying to look at my notes real quick. I know that's great radio, very entertaining for everybody.
Yes.
But they had last 2 days. They, even though they're not in pads, they did do some one-on-one work between offensive line and defensive line, and didn't get a good look at it yesterday because it couldn't have been farther away from the media tent and a lot of things blocking us. But I think Karlaftis, I think I had him going up against Hunter Norzad once, and that was a pretty good matchup. Actually, they both did really well in that one. But he, there's the one. For better or for worse, take this for what it is. First rep against Josh Simmons, absolutely destroyed him. I mean, it was a clear Karlaftis win. The second one, it was a little bit more of a draw, but I would probably say give the edge to Karlaftis on that one. I mean, your mileage may vary. It's two reps against George Karlaftis, and I think it probably I came away from it, though, saying a lot more about George Karlaftis than Josh Simmons.
Yeah, I was going to say the fact that it's George Karlaftis, and last year we saw some reps where Kingsley got beat by Malik Herring. And we were like, maybe this is a Malik Herring. He's looked good. Malik Herring has had a couple of nice plays there. And it's like, one-on-one, he beat Kingsley a couple times. And it's like, all right, so is that Malik or is it Kingsley? Boy, I hope that's Malik Herring. Turns out we found out what that was. I am, and this is not just to, view pie in the sky and take the positive approach every single time. Karlaftis got paid for a reason. And if... But a couple things. One, if Josh Simmons were to step in the first training camp that he's been in against a guy who's entering year 4 and has gone up against really good tackles in the first 3 years of his career and just got paid, and he's stalemating and stymieing George Karlaftis, then one, I'd be kind of worried about George Karlaftis. But then also it's like, oh my God, do they have like Trent Williams on their hands right out of the gates, which we know they don't have. So I kind of feel like, and this is, you're not saying the opposite, but I think it's more in agreement with you that those couple reps are more, dog bites man for early in camp for a rookie versus a guy going into his 4th year and a brand new contract.
Yeah, I'm not going to judge anything based on what happens in the first 4 days of camps without pads on, because offensive and defensive linemen, by the way, play with pads on. So yeah, I'm not going to take any conclusions from that. But I've been saying this, for mostly all off season in the summer, and certainly once Chiefs kind of figured out who their left tackles were going to be. I mean, because of what you just talked about, we've got to be looking at it with a more critical eye than we did last year. If the performance on the field says, hey, Malik Herrings of the world, and no knock against Malik, he's an NFL player, but he's not on the same level as a George Karlaftis. If guys who are on the third team are beating Josh Simmons in practice and in one-on-ones, that's exactly what happened last year with Kingsley. And, last year the answer when, kind of asked about it was, don't worry, he's going to be fine. We believe it. We believe in Kingsley. That's not a good enough answer this year. If Josh Simmons is struggling at some point, your answer is, don't worry, it's going to be okay. Nobody's going to believe you this year. You can't cry wolf. And this is a little bit of that. So we'll see what happens. But I will see on the other side of it, Jalen Moore playing on the right side has looked really good. And today in the one-on-ones, he had a really good session. So once again, your mileage may vary, but if I had to, rank, who have been the best tackles so far in camp, I mean, Jalen Moore would be at the top of the list. Might be actually a little bit of a tight race. I'd probably give the edge to Josh Simmons, but I tell you what, Esapole, kid from Washington, is it Washington State? I can't remember. One of the Washingtons. He moved up to there you go. He moved up to second team today.
Interesting.
So,
on the left or the right side?
He was on the left side. He moved up past Ethan Driscoll, who had been working there. So This is a guy that Nick Jacobs and I talked about on 41 is the mic is potential to watch, maybe as being a bubble guy for the roster, and he's right there. I mean, Wanye Morris was over on the right side, Pole was on the left, so he's a guy to watch. We'll see. I mean, he's getting his opportunity, and we'll see if he can take advantage of it.
I'm trying to find real quick. I need to go back and look at my notes. I've got all these pieces of paper, but I have them for a specific reason, and one of the reasons is because if you mention something like that, I could very quickly just go and grab it like I'm able to do right now. Here it is. Issa Pole, Washington State. He was viewed as a 6th-round tackle from this was the Beast.
Dane Brugler.
With Dane Brugler, he had him as the number 3 tackle undrafted free agent available before the Chiefs signed Issa Pole. So out of the number 19 overall tackle, left and right side, but of the undrafted free agents, he had him as the 3rd best tackle available. Did Dane Brugler. So the Chiefs got somebody that at least was ranked on some of these lists as top 5, top 10 of those positions available. A lot of talk about Briningstool that was out there certainly, but Dane Brugler liked Issa Pole as well. So it's interesting you bring him up because there was certainly some talk about him when they signed him, and I like to keep notes of those and keep them with me just in case that something like that happens. You're like, keep an eye on this guy. It's like, okay, so what did they say about? Oh wait, yeah, okay, keep an eye on this guy. This was somebody that even those that were the draft nicks out there were saying, this is a really good signing by the Chiefs because he probably should have been drafted in the 6th round, not just a 7th round. We're gonna draft him so that we don't have to go and compete with anybody else as an undrafted free agent. No, this guy actually should have gone around sooner, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder with everybody. So that's interesting to think of. Matt Derrick is our guest. Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. Matt, I brought this up yesterday, and I wanted to get your opinion on it because, talking Josh Simmons and Jalen Moore and Jawan Taylor's on the PUP list, and I don't know how long Jawan Taylor's going to be out. Hopefully it's not long, but so far we've seen, 4 practices come and go without Jawan Taylor. But my assessment, Matt, was if I'm trying to get in the minds of the Kansas City Chiefs, what I've essentially said is that I think the Chiefs are telling us that the Chargers game, their left tackle is Josh Simmons. And the reason I've said that is if they truly wanted this to be a open competition with left tackle between Simmons and Jalen Moore, that they have no idea who's going to start and they need to get the most information possible, then would there really be a reason to put Jalen Moore at right tackle? You just put Wanya Morris over there until Jawan Taylor comes back so you can get as many reps as possible with Jalen Moore and Josh Simmons on the left side with the ones. Because it's not like they're getting Jalen Moore. They signed Ronnie Stanley or somebody that's played a bunch of left tackle. This guy was a backup and had limited reps. What's your observation of that with Jawan Taylor out, Jalen Moore is the right tackle and Josh Simmons is the left tackle, that they aren't just putting somebody else on the right side and letting Jalen and Josh sort of battle it out and get the most reps possible on the left side?
Yeah, from the people I've talked to in the organization, the discussion has been more and the thinking has been more that one, Josh Simmons, you're just not going to rotate.
Yeah,
you're going to leave him as is. And frankly, even as much as Andy Reid talks about how Andy Heck rotates all those guys, your starters just probably aren't going to rotate. I mean, you're not going to. You don't want Josh Simmons taking any right tackle snaps. There's no reason for it. Kingsley, left guard. I mean, he's not going to move to right guard or center. He's going to be a left guard. Same thing with Creed. Same thing with Trey Smith. They're not moving out of their positions. You're not. Neither one of them is moving the tackle or anything like that. And unless things have really gone wrong in a game. And so Jalen Moore, they want him to be ready to play right tackle because like you said, I mean, if you're going into the season and right now, Josh Simmons is going to be your left tackle, well, Jalen Moore's going to be your swing guy. Mm-hmm. So he needs as many reps as he can get at both those spots. And like you said, I mean, in his past, he played a lot of left tackle, not much right. So they want to get him as much work as he can now. When Jawan comes back, maybe he splits a little more. Maybe he gets some of the left tackle with the ones a little bit. Maybe he's on the 2 line. Maybe he goes back and forth and gets some experience. we'll see how they use him during the preseason games too.
Yeah.
But with Jalen Moore, I mean, that's the one guy on at least as far as their first 6-7 linemen, that's the one guy that they want to have the flexibility. I mean, he's going to be a swing guy, so they want him with working on both sides, and eventually he'll get to work on the left side. We'll just see if it's with the ones or the twos.
Do you think it's an open competition at left tackle for with Simmons and Moore, or is this it's a quote-unquote competition with Simmons that's probably 80% of the way as being the one, Moore playing catch-up, and that's why they want him working on the right side without Jawaan Taylor, is because they envision that his role this year is a swing tackle or playing, specifically right tackle if something continues to linger in that knee with Jawaan Taylor?
I mean, everything that we've seen these first 4 days of the practice, if you knew nothing about the backstories, about what's going on and who these guys are and everything, your conclusion would be that Josh Simmons and Kingsley Suamataia both are the starters on the left side, and it's their job to lose. There's no competition. I mean, it's literally their jobs to lose, and I think that's possible. It's not like Creed and Trey, where there's no competition at all.
Right.
I mean, it's not their jobs to lose. There's literally nothing that those two guys can do to lose their jobs except get hurt. With Simmons and with Kingsley, they've still got things to prove, and when the pads come on, that's a big part of it. With Josh, that's when you're going to truly find out if he's got the base and the strength to hold up in that spot. And the only thing that went off on my radar today, and what we've seen with the defensive line, he did a lot better on the speed rush than he did on the bull rush.
Okay.
The bull rush was where he had trouble. And, if that becomes a thing that because Josh Simmons doesn't have that strength yet, and his trunk, if you will, and his base and his knee, and you can bull rush him, well, he's going to get bull rushed all the time. So that's going to be the question, if he's got that strength. And then it's going to also be the existential question, which is that if he's not 100% back yet, will the Chiefs have the fortitude to a degree to see that and say, wait a minute, let's back off this kid and let's wait till he's 100%.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that is. We as we continue to talk about this, last one on the tackle part, and then I wanted to ask about something you mentioned with George Karlaftis, but another offensive lineman, and then relating that to Kingsley. But as this continues to go along, do you think there's maybe a battle at right tackle? And maybe the starting tackle position, we viewed it heading into camp on the wrong side, viewing it left side, that maybe it's Jawaan versus Jalen, that there's maybe a real competition there?
Yeah, this is just my reading of the situation. It's not from me talking to anyone, so I can't say this is a source-based thing. This is just, the reading of the situation. I mean, I can't see a situation, a scenario where you give the starting job to Jalen Moore if Jawaan Taylor is healthy. And, and once you kind of mentioned it. I mean, Andy Reid has said that at least Jawaan Taylor is closer than Christian Fulton. Well, I mean, is Christian Fulton going to be out 6 months and Jawaan 5?
We don't have the baseline comparison there. We don't have the constant in this experiment.
Yeah, and we know Jawaan was limited during OTAs, so we know that there's at least he's part of the way back in some ways. So it's not as though he's just months and months away. He should be fairly close. When he clears it, then we'll get a really good look at that position and what they think. But I just from just knowing NFL players the way they are, and I can't speak to Jawaan Taylor. I mean, maybe he would handle this differently, but it's really hard to see scenarios where a guy who started his entire career, he's paid like a starter, carries him like a starter, believes that he's a starter, and then you go to him and say, nope, we're going to bench you, and we're going to go with this guy instead. Do you lose that guy forever? Not only just as far as, maybe does he check out? I don't know if Jawaan, I mean, I don't get any impression from Jawaan that he would do that. I mean, I think he seems like a really good dude and a good teammate, so I don't think it would be that scenario. But, could you lose him from just a, investment standpoint? And then you think about, okay, it's week 8, Josh Simmons or Jalen Moore gets hurt, you need Jawaan Taylor. Now is he invested and bought in, after he got benched? I mean, you never know when that's going to play with people's psyches. Even the best dudes can get their brains played with and minds played with when things like that happen to them. I mean, especially if Jawaan Taylor doesn't get to go out there and play to win his job back. They just say, hey, it's Jalen Moore's job. Whereas Jalen Moore's been a backup his entire career. He's paid less than Jawaan Taylor. I mean, he's not going to be saying to himself, oh, wait a minute, I should be playing ahead of this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the case. I mean, Jalen Moore's much more equipped to be a backup. So I would think that those two would be in that role, that it would be Jawaan Taylor as the starter, Jalen Moore as a backup, until there's a reason that it has to go the other way. If Jawaan Taylor is just lost and Jalen Moore is clearly better, I mean, you got to do what's your best 5 linemen. I mean, that's eventually what's going to happen. But it just might mean that, hey, you're probably not going to have Jawaan Taylor beyond this year. So do the Chiefs move on and just cut bait? I still think that's a rough scenario because you just look at the dead money. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make any financial sense to walk away from Jawaan Taylor yet.
The last one on the tackles part, as we're talking about the Jawaan Taylor thing, and as you were talking there, it popped into my head that I wanted to ask you one more, and that is, from your assessment specifically, from what you see and what you would guess and analyze it, and then maybe if you've heard anything from the organization, do you feel that some of the issues with Jawaan Taylor last year were knee injury, nagging issues induced, and this offseason doing what he did to hopefully fix that, which is why he's on the PUP list now as he's still recovering from that when he's back playing, it'll be a better version of Jawaan Taylor that's not going to be every week on the injury list and every indoor practice he's, a DNP.
Almost lost my voice there.
That's fine.
Got something cut in my throat. That also makes great radio.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it. We haven't got to talk to Jawaan yet, so we haven't even got to ask him this question or how he feels. But I've been told by people in the organization that Jawaan feels great. That he feels like he's been his best. Certainly as healthy as he's been in Kansas City. This knee has been bothering him. He probably should have thought about having surgery last off season, but they put it off, decided to delay it until this year, doing the cleanup. And hey, if he feels better, that's probably going to help his game regardless. I would say from at least what I've been told, I think it's more of a Jawaan is completely convinced that he feels better. The Chiefs are just optimistic that he's going to be better. And, we'll see. And now what we don't know is, hey, did something happen between OTAs and now that there's been a setback? I mean, Chiefs haven't described it as a setback, and he was limited during OTAs. So at least there's some consistency, and there's some logic to it, too, which, we talked about with the rotation. I mean, if you want to give Jawaan Taylor a rest, go for it, because you've got 2 other guys that you need to get all the reps in the world to right now.
Mm-hmm. Visiting with Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. We'll take a quick time out. We'll come back. I want to talk about that George Karlaftis and offensive lineman that you mentioned, which will lead us into then George Karlaftis' contract, Jalen Royals, what we've seen from him, Ty Thornton getting some run. Today, Noel Williams getting some run with the ones in practice. I'm going to talk about that and what we heard from Dave Toub in the special teams conversation and who he likes and who Matt likes and what he's seen so far. We'll take a time out. We'll come back hanging out with Matt Derrick. Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. He's there in St. Joe. Chiefs wrapping up day 4 of training camp. Off day tomorrow. Pads on Sunday. More Zone next. All right, hanging out with Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. He's there in St. Joe. Off day tomorrow. Chiefs in pads on Sunday. All right, Matt, you mentioned earlier some of your observations when we were talking about George Karlaftis, and you talked about him versus Josh Simmons. You mentioned Nourzad that was there. And by mentioning Nourzad, I wanted to ask you if we have seen, because you said, look, if you don't know anything about this team and you just watch the first 4 days, you would look at him and say, your starting left side is Josh Simmons and Kingsley Suamataia. Has Hunter Nourzad worked in on anything except for center with this offensive line so far? Is he getting a look at playing left guard or being a guard-to-guard Allegretti-type player that can be the backup center, but also Allegretti was a damn fine backup guard for Joe Thuney in the Super Bowl against the 49ers? Is Nourzad getting a look at that at all?
He is, and I thought that was certainly a difference than what we saw during OTAs. Now, once again, we only saw 1 out of every 3, so we didn't get to see the whole body of work. But even during the 2 days that we were out there for the mandatory minicamp, we didn't see any rotation there on that second line. Now, part of that, I think, was also that Trey Smith wasn't there for most of that time except for the mandatory minicamp. And, Mike Caliendo, that was the Chiefs' chance to get Tim and Kingsley in there with the first team line at the same time since they were, in theory, in competition. But no, I mean, these 4 practices on the second team offensive line, it's been, 2 days at left guard and 2 days at center for both Nourzad and Caliendo.
Nice.
So I think you would certainly be looking at it right now and saying, hey, those 2 guys are your clear-cut, second and third, that are third and, I'm doing my math here, fourth and fifth interior linemen.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
and, once again, I mean, pads will come on, we'll see about, I think at this point you'd say Nourzad's the better center and Caliendo's the better guard. We'll see what happens after, 13 more practices.
Yeah. Visiting with Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. George Karlaftis got the contract, looks good in camp so far. The deal overall for him, I want to start off just in general what you think about the contract for him, and then I want to get into what it will take for him to either live up or surpass that. So the contract that he got, on record, Matt Derrick, good contract, bad contract, fair contract, either way. How do you assess this?
I mean, I think it's a great contract. We'll see if it, 6 years from now, you look back on it and you say it was a great contract or a suspect contract. But, this is how you'll end up being the judge of it. This is why I think it's a great contract right now. We had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. What is George Karlaftis? Is he one of the top 10 edge rushers in the league? Probably not right now. But I would also make the point, okay, go through and start naming your top 10 edge rushers and tell me how many of them are in their, first 3 years in the league.
Yeah.
You're not going to have usually very many of them that are. And most of the guys you're going to rattle off and say are the best edge rushers in the league right now are veterans that are probably on their second contracts even, make a lot of money. So even if you're saying, we had, in the rankings we were talking about, you're listing Karlaftis as maybe like 12th or in the top 15. Okay, well, let's say he's a top 15 edge rusher. He is certainly not going to be paid like a top 15 edge rusher in the next 2 years because the contract doesn't touch that. I mean, he's going to be on his rookie contract and the fifth-year option for 2 more seasons. And then after that, in 27, is when he's going to start being a $22 million a year defensive end. Well, if he goes and does anything close to breaking out like some guys have done in year 4, I mean, I'm not saying he needs to be putting up 17 sacks a year like Trey Hendrickson or a perennial All-Pro like Max Crosby or Daniel Hunter. If he just becomes a guy that if he became a guy that put up 10 to 12 sacks every single year for those 4 years, that's a great contract. Because I'll tell you this, $22 million a year by 2030 isn't going to be that highly paid for defensive end. I mean, the money's just going to keep going up and up and up. So the fact that you locked him in early, I mean, there's going to be some really average edge rushers being paid $22 million by 2030. So, I feel like it's a great deal for that. I mean, and to the point where this might be a deal that if you're the Chiefs, you might in 2028 be like, okay, do we need to rework this contract? Because
do we feel bad about what we're paying him?
Yeah, I mean, you might be in that spot because he might be. And now, hey, it could go the other way too. He gets hurt, or maybe doesn't break out, and is putting up 2 sacks a year for you. All of a sudden, you're like the 49ers and D Ford. But I think there's a lot of reasons to believe that his best football is still ahead of him. I mean, the fact that he's 24. And then you look at just how difficult that I don't know if we really truly appreciate just how difficult that position is, and that there is a learning curve to it. I mean, quarterback, I think probably left tackle, edge rusher. I mean, we know there's some positions that you can come in and play as a rookie. Cornerback, you can come in and play as a rookie. But how many edge rushers come out and just dominate in their first 3 years in the league? Well, if they do, they're probably Hall of Famers. But you look and look at George Karlaftis' rookie class. Aiden Hutchinson is clearly considered the best defensive end and pass rusher in that class. He's got like 2.5 sacks more than Karlaftis, and Karlaftis has been an absolute playoff beast.
Yeah, he has.
I mean, he's been like Frank Clark beast in the postseason. I mean, there was a guy taken 1 overall and a guy taken 5 overall in George Karlaftis' draft class, and he's better than both of them
in the playoffs. Well, in
the regular season, I mean, I think he's better than Trayvon Walker.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you know what's funny is you said that, and in my mind, Trayvon Walker. In my mind, I was thinking Hutchinson in that draft, and I'm like, but Trayvon Walker, Trayvon Walker and Thibodeau, right? Walker and Thibodeau.
I think Karlaftis is better than both those guys.
Yeah. And by the way, the playoff numbers, he's got 21 pressures in the playoffs and 8 sacks in his 10 games, and also 7 other quarterback hits. And that's where I wonder, Matt, I'm not saying he's Trey Hendrickson, because I think Trey Hendrickson wins more one-on-one. And does Karlaftis benefit from Chris Jones being on the field? Certainly, sure, fine. I agree. But you know what? Maybe Chris Jones also benefits from Karlaftis being out there. But Trey Hendrickson had his big breakout in year 4, and he went from 6.5 total sacks in his career to 13.5 in year 4, and then he signs the big deal with Cincinnati, and he has 14 sacks that first year, and then these last 2 years he's combined for 35 sacks. And the counting numbers and the pressures, I think, are interesting, because I brought this up yesterday, Matt, and I wonder what the price tag for George Karlaftis would be if his career was year 1, 6 sacks, year 2, 10.5 sacks, year 3, 11 sacks. The 11 number that I bring up, Matt, is what he should have had if his sacks matched the number of pressures that it takes to get a sack for him. So in his career, including last year, he's about 3.8 pressures for 1 sack. Before last year, he was 3.4 pressures for every 1 sack. That would give him 11 sacks last year based on his pressures. I don't know. Would Karlaftis' agent advise him to sign this contract if he was a 6 sack, 10.5, and then 11 going into year 4, that he had ascended in sack numbers every year and pressures have gone up every year and quarterback hits have gone up each and every year? Would his agent have said, look, George, next offseason we sign this contract, not right now, because we think you're going to have 13 or 14 sacks this year?
Yeah, I do think that that's a legitimate question, and you bring up the pressures and hurries and how they relate to sacks, and we know that, I mean, from a season to season basis, they're not very good, because I mean, there can be luck and just variance in those numbers, because sometimes you have 2 guys with the exact same pressure numbers, and one might have 6 sacks and one might have 10.
And let me give
probably should both be 8 sacks guys.
Right. Let me give you an example of that. Trey Hendrickson in 2023 had 17.5 sacks on 35 pressures. Last year he had 17.5 sacks on 55 pressures. So 20 more pressures and no more sacks. I mean, just from year to year. And Karlaftis also said, I got to make my layups, in which he probably looked at maybe 2 or 3 sacks that he didn't get that were missed layups.
Yeah, and that's the thing that comes with experience, and that's why I asked him, that, can he feel that, the being in year 4 versus the first 3 years, is there an experience that comes along with that? And, he said he's talked to Max Crosby and Danielle Hunter and Trey Hendrickson about these kind of things, and so that's why I feel like he's equipped for it. You talk about the contract and whether you would be better off waiting. Now, there's a whole lot of other factors that could go into this. Some of them may have. I don't know that they did. Some may very well have been. Maybe they didn't. If I could see a scenario where whether the Chiefs said it or his team knew it, and like I said, maybe the Chiefs flat out said it. It's like, hey George, this is the contract that's going to be available. If Trent McDuffie signs first, this isn't going to be the contract that's available. I mean, it's going to be the first guy that signs probably gets gets a better deal, because after maybe somebody else puts their name on a contract, money's not going to be there anymore. Yeah. So that could have been a factor. And players too. I mean, remember George was 2 years away from being able to enter free agency, and I asked that question. I have not to George, but aloud. I'm like, if you're George Karlaftis, do you take the chance of betting on the next 2 years that you can have a breakout year, that you got basically 2 contract years in front of you? Can you bet on the fact that you're going to be healthy, go out and get 17 sacks, and now all of a sudden you're a $25-30 million player? Or do you look at it and say, wait a minute, I can get $88 million right now, get a fairly good guarantee, kind of eliminate the risk of getting injured in the next 2 years. And let's face it, the dude's going to, probably be playing 40 football games the next 2 years with playoff runs. Just a good chance of that, at least. When you throw in the preseason, it's going to be more than 40. I mean, you take into that risk, I can see it. And I could certainly see, like I said, I could see the pressure from the Chiefs, because I would absolutely be telling that to potential free agents, is be like, wait a minute, we can't sign everybody. So we're going to offer you a fair number. If you don't like it, that's fine. But if somebody else signs before you, things are going to change.
Matt Derrick is our guest. Chief Digest 41 is the Mike Podcast. Let's take a time out. We'll come back. I want to talk some rookies, what we've seen these first 4 days, and some names that have come up over the last couple of days, and a name that was brought up by Dave Tobe today. We'll do that coming up next. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike Podcast. More Zone next. Matt Derrick is our guest. Chief Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. Matt, I liked the draft pick of Jalen Royals when they took him in the 4th round. I didn't think he was going to be there in the 4th round. He's on this team, obviously. We don't know what the future of Rashee Rice is going to be and how many games he may or may not be suspended for. But what have you seen from Jalen Royals? And if you're looking at it, was he more, or even a little bit of an insurance policy for if they lost Rashee Rice, or if Rashee Rice had never had the incident in the, March of 24, Jalen Royals there in the 4th round would still be a Kansas City Chief right now?
I think there's a reasonable chance he's still a Kansas City Chief because I think the Chiefs would like to every year take a wide receiver. Just depends on how many needs that they've got, and how many picks they have, and how it all falls. And, you're not going to just reach for a receiver. You want it to be a value pick. And Royals kind of fit that a little bit. He's obviously a little bit of a divided opinion. That's why he ends up in the 4th round. Some teams probably had him as a higher pick, some teams a lower. What he's looked like so far in camp, I would say he's looked good. I mean, I don't want to overhype it because, does he look like Tyreek Hill, Rashee Rice, or Xavier Worthy when they were rookies? I wouldn't say that. I don't know. I'd have to, I guess I wasn't even on the beat for Chris Conley's rookie year, so and that would be like a really good comp would be, would be Chris Conley and to me, Demarcus Robinson. It was another 4th round pick. I mean, Conley was a second, so that's a little bit earlier. But to me at least, those are the kind of players that you're thinking about. Hey, is he going to be kind of comparable to them? I mean, Conley contributed, DeMarcus didn't as a rookie, but could he be that or better? I mean, I've been impressed. I mean, I think he can contribute. Like I said, do I see him and do I see a 500-yard receiver? That's what Tyreek was as a rookie. No, I don't see that, but it doesn't mean he can't contribute and can't do some good things. But because I also haven't seen him make any tremendous mistakes. He's been fairly reliable. He's getting some looks with the first team, pretty much a regular with the second team. I think that's going to change, obviously. I think he'll probably get a little bit more work as they go on. Right now, they're trying to get a lot of guys some reps with the one. So Tyquan Thornton, has been getting some reps in that too. The occasional for Jason Brownlee. It's Sky Moore's getting reps with the one. So it's still a fairly competitive position for those final 2 spots. And I say too because you probably are going to have an extra guy on this roster for Rashee at the beginning of the season.
And that suspension, he has to be a part of the 53, right, Rashee Rice?
He does not. He can go if he's suspended to start the season. He can go straight on to the suspended list and won't count on the 53.
All right, very good. I was looking at it the other way and thinking, well, you got to make room for him somehow, and then when he's suspended, then getting somebody through waivers, all of that stuff. But no, that's good to know that they don't have to do that. Matt Derrick is our guest. Dave Toub mentioned that he's really excited about Brashard Smith as a punt returner, saying that Nico right now is far and above everyone else as the punt returner. But that means Nico would have to make the team as a wide receiver, though. So I wonder, from Nico Remigio's standpoint or even Brashard Smith's standpoint, that the more and more Brashard Smith may improve as a punt returner, certainly could hurt the possibility of Nico Remigio being on this team. But have you seen what Dave Toub is liking about Brashard Smith and his excitement with him as a punt returner and learning how to do it?
Oh yeah, no, I mean you absolutely see it because the kid's got good hands. He used to be a receiver, so he can catch the football. He talked about today that it's still a little bit new to him. He returned kicks, but didn't really return punts, and even didn't do, I think, a ton of kick return in college. But enough that you could consider. But he's got the skill set for it. Like I said, good hands, speed. Most importantly, change of direction. That's the one thing that you can sometimes lack. But he can maintain his speed through a change of direction. That's incredible. And I look at it with those two guys in particular a little bit differently. I mean, I think Brashard certainly looks like he's going to make this team, and I'd almost say he's going to make it as a playmaker because he might not be one of the top 3 running backs. He's still new as a running back, but he can be an absolute matchup nightmare because you can put him in different spots on the field. I mean, if he's coming out of the backfield as a receiver and you got him on a linebacker, that's a mismatch. If he splits out wide, And if you get a safety on him, that might be a mismatch because he's a former receiver. I mean, he's got decent size and certainly good speed and agility. So he's got a lot of traits, and he's had some really nice catches. But if you're just focusing on special teams, I mean, he's one of their 2 best kick returners. I don't think there's any doubt about that. You're going to have 2 kick returners. So right now, Nico and Brashard Smith look like your top 2 guys. I think it's the other way around with Nico. I wouldn't say that has to make the team as a receiver to be one of your returners. I think he has to make the team because he's your returner, and therefore he has to be one of your receivers.
Yeah.
And he certainly fills that role. I mean, is he one of the maybe top 6 receivers in camp? There might be. You could probably make a case for Tyquan Thornton over him. You could maybe make a case for some other guys, but when you take the whole package and what he does for this team as a punt returner and one of the 2 kick returners you're going to have back there, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, I can't see a scenario where Nico doesn't make this team if he's healthy, and Brashard too. I mean, and that gives you just a really good 1-2 punch at both those spots.
I was going to say to a degree, it may come down for Nico Remigio being on the team for 2 other players' performance, and that would be like if Brashard Smith is good enough and close to Nico as a punt returner, but Tyquan Thornton is offering you that much more as a wide receiver that the Chiefs like, then that may ultimately cost Nico Remigio his job as a punt returner / wide receiver, right?
And here's where I think it probably won't, because again, I mean, you got to remember, I mean, you're going to have 2. You have to have 2 kick returners.
Yeah.
That's just the format of the receiving the football. Who are there other kick returners? I mean, if Sky Moore makes this team, that's a role that he can fill. I don't think Sky Moore makes this team right now.
Either. Yeah.
I mean, I think he's on the outside looking in.
In fact, you said Sky Moore, and I just completely forgot that he's still on the team. I've already counted him as. I'm not even talking about him as a wide receiver on this team. It's like.
I mean, you've got some other guys. I mean, Jalen Royals has returned kickoffs. Noah Williams has returned kickoffs. Nobody's returned punts. So, one, if you don't have Nico Remigio and you don't have Sky Moore, you literally have no one with experience returning punts. You like what Brashard Smith can do, but if you've got if you had a kick that you just need to make sure that you're sending somebody back there to receive the kick, the punt, because they need to make a catch or else, you can't afford to muff this kick. I mean, Dave Toub would probably tell you his best returner at that point would probably be Trent McDuffie. I mean, that's how just no experience that they would have as a punt returner. So, and the interesting thing is what Dave Toub said today about Tyquan Thornton, because they're not even mentioning Tyquan Thornton as a return candidate, as either kickoff or I think he has done some kickoff, no punts, but he's deep on the kick return, lineup. And why? Because Dave Toub is thinking of him as a gunner. I mean, that's going to be his role. So if you're not including Tyquan Thornton at all in the conversation about returns, you're really saying and I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, you hear what Dave Toub said today, and hey, he could certainly be, just making the public case for Nico because he loves the kid and everything, and he's been pounding the table for Nico for a couple of years as his return guy and a special teams player overall.
Yeah.
But if it could be the case, but I mean, Dave Toub today would tell you that they have to have Nico on this roster.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens with this team, and certainly a number of positions that are open, not many that are open, but it's going to be a fun competition, and I'm really excited to see Jeffrey Bossa as well, because Dave Toub was clearly excited about him too, so we will find out. Always excited to talk with Matt Derrick. Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. Matt, you're the man. Appreciate it. Safe travels back home. Enjoy your day off tomorrow, and we'll see what happens on Sunday when the pads come on. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Jason. Take care, my friends.
Absolutely. There's Matt Derrick. Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. Great stuff from him. A lot of observations in the 4 days of camp that we've seen so far. We'll get a better idea once those pads come on Sunday. Looking forward to it. But yeah, Dave Toub talking about Nico Remigio is far and above, the words he used, far and above everybody else when it comes to being a punt returner, but is excited about what Brashard Smith can offer because he hasn't done it before, but you can see some of those natural instincts, and he's a good catcher. I would say, though, my favorite punt returner for the Chiefs still continues to be nobody. My favorite punt returner is, don't have one. Don't worry about it. Make sure Mahomes gets the ball. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. There's another Major League Baseball trade. In fact, there's been two today. Last night, Josh Naylor got traded from the Arizona Diamondbacks to the Seattle Mariners. Today, Gregory Soto was traded from the Baltimore Orioles to the Yankees. Now I've lost the team that he was traded to. Mets. So Gregory Soto goes to the Mets as a reliever from Baltimore. And the New York Yankees have acquired third baseman Ryan McMahon from the Colorado Rockies. 30-year-old. He's got 2 more years of team control after this year. They owe him $32 million. Do the Yankees owe Ryan McMahon in 26 and 27. So team control for Ryan McMahon, 30-year-old. He's got 16 home runs so far. A little bit of a down year. Was an all-star last year. He's batting .217 this year, but he does have 16 home runs. Leading the league in strikeouts is Ryan McMahon, but also top 5 in outs above average at third base, which they've needed improvement defensively. They've been pretty bad defensively this year.
Not a lot of protection in that lineup either.
Yeah, no, there's nobody around him at all. So
and really bad City Connect jerseys.
They are. I mean, I don't know if they're the worst, but they're pretty bad. Like, I see their City Connect, and if I just look at them on TV and I don't know who's playing, there's a part of me that's like, Diamondbacks are playing right now. Or the Charlotte Hornets are playing. I don't know, because there's the purple, there's like the whatever light-colored blue, there's a little, different pink that's in there. It's terrible. Just awful City Connect uniforms. But Ryan McMahon is heading to the New York Yankees, and the Yankees are giving up their number 8 prospect in Griffin Herring, left-handed pitcher, and their number 21 prospect, Josh Groves, a right-handed pitcher. Both of those guys are ETAs 2027. So younger guys that are pitching an A-ball. So they got a couple of arms back for Ryan McMahon.
And there had been some talk about the Yankees maybe having interest in Maikel Garcia.
Right.
So that's why it's interesting here in Kansas
Yep.
City.
It was like the Yankees are going to get themselves a third baseman. It's Eugenio Suarez, right? They're going to do whatever they can. Suarez is going to be the biggest ticket out there, and if the Yankees get Suarez, then they've moved themselves back into being maybe the best team in the American League and challenging for the World Series. Putting that guy in that lineup in that ballpark, not the best third baseman defensively, but you're adding maybe the most coveted piece at the All-Star or at the trade deadline in Suarez. It's interesting because they moved on to Ryan McMahon. So then, was the asking price from the Diamondbacks for Suarez way too much right now that the Yankees were like, we're just not going to get there? And did they view it as saying, we're going to trade these pieces for McMahon and give up other pieces for a starting pitcher that's out there, which is interesting because, if people do not want to pay the price that could be exorbitant for Eugenio Suarez, and they need a third baseman pretty badly, does Maikel Garcia get thrown back into the mix of teams that want a third baseman? Milwaukee needs a third baseman. Seattle needs a third. Well, they got Josh Naylor. Not that a third baseman, but another bat. The Cubs need a third baseman. The Mets have talked about needing a third baseman. So there are 6 different teams. Detroit needs one, but I don't know that that'll be a trade within the division. If Detroit was willing to pay whatever it takes to get him, then yeah, you could trade him. But the Yankees needed a third baseman as well. That if Suarez is way too expensive, then the next best thing seemed to be Ryan McMahon, who is now off the market, and there are still 5 teams that need a third baseman at the trade deadline. There's look, third baseman. It's not the best position in Major League Baseball right now. There ain't a lot of just stud third basemen that are out there in Major League Baseball. And Ryan McMahon got moved. We'll see about Suarez. Garcia was talked about. But if the Yankees are looking at it and saying, we're going to then pay for McMahon and then give up other prospects or other pieces for a starting pitcher, depending on what that pitcher might be, then that would take a third baseman and a pitcher off the market to the Yankees, which then in theory could increase the value of Seth Lugo and Maikel Garcia if it deplenishes the market or the group of players that are there and available for a Seth Lugo. We'll find out. Jeff Passan said yesterday, he was on with Soren and said, look, I think the Final Four was Seth Lugo was going to be a Kansas City Royal this time next week, and he said no. I think that's what a lot of people feel is that Seth Lugo is going to get traded. And it doesn't mean the Royals would be waving the white flag if he got traded, because they could still go and compete depending on what you got back. Like if you're getting back an outfielder that you've got team control for a couple of years and he's immediately into the lineup, you find a way to get through the Seth Lugo starts until Lorenzen or Ragans comes back. Well, your rotation, if you take out Lugo and add in Lorenzen and Ragans, it's better than what it is right now. Because then you wouldn't have to have the Rich Hill and bullpen games and things like that. But we'll see what the going rate is going to be for Seth Lugo, because we know what it is for Josh Naylor. He got moved for the number 13 and number 16 prospects from the Seattle Mariners. Now, the Mariners have a deep farm system, so 13 and 16 could very well be 7 and 10 for a different organization. But 13 and 16 brought back Josh Naylor, rent a player. Ryan McMahon, 2 more years of team control after this year for the Yankees. They trade a top 10 prospect for them, Griffin Herring. So we'll see. Maybe Michael Garcia gets on the move or not. But here's the thing. What it starts to do is I feel like now we get a little momentum heading into the weekend. Because there was a feeling like, we've always wondered, why don't they just start making trades right now? Why would you wait till July 31st if you can get this guy in your lineup or get an extra start or two? Maybe less pitchers. Because if you trade for Seth Lugo right now, he ain't going to pitch till Tuesday anyway. Or I guess Monday would be regular rest for him. You could throw him into your rotation then. But pitchers maybe less because you're getting 1 game impact extra if you trade for him right now. As opposed to Ryan McMahon's going to be in the Yankees lineup for the next 6 games added in. And if they, instead of waiting till July 31st. Same thing with Josh Naylor last night being traded to the Mariners. So maybe it doesn't increase the urgency and the timeline for a Seth Lugo being traded. Another starting pitcher being traded. But maybe a bat along the way. Maybe a third baseman in Michael Garcia. We'll find out. 913-912-4810, but needed to pass that along. Ryan McMahon being traded to the Yankees, so we now have 2 bats that have been traded and a reliever in the last 12 hours or so. 15 hours, give or take. Naylor last night, and Gregory Soto today, and now Ryan McMahon. 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us. Appreciate Matt Derrick talking with us and discussing some of the things that he has seen at training camp so far. And I like the development of Hunter Norzad getting some work in with the second string, with the second team, because throughout OTAs and minicamp, we did not see that. We didn't see those guys get that opportunity, or Norzad get that opportunity to work in with the backups. And it was like, are they just going to look at Hunter Norzad as the backup center and that's it? Like Kingsley is your left guard no matter what now? Like he's been given, it's Kingsley or maybe Caliendo, and I don't want to see Caliendo in there. I hope that Kingsley wins the job, because if he wins the job, then they should be better than what they were at left guard last year. Not given the job, but winning the job. There's a difference there. Winning the job over Caliendo would mean that they feel like they are better at that spot. But I didn't know why Norzad wasn't getting a look. I'm not saying Norzad is going to be Tooney or Trey Smith, but he looked pretty damn good against the Broncos. And it felt like through OTAs and minicamp that Norzad was just going to be your backup center. And now seeing that, in these training camp practices, he's getting run with the second unit. He's working in there at guard, working in there certainly at center, because I think he's a better center than Caliendo is. So if you had to go and they had to have a center go in a game right now, I think that would be Norzad, not Caliendo, because he is an actual center. But if Kingsley or somebody goes down, I'd like to see Hunter Norzad get a shot. Hell, I'd like to see Norzad get a shot against Kingsley. Like, I don't want it just to be Kingsley versus Mike Caliendo. I want it to be Kingsley, Caliendo, Nourzad, and I don't know, whoever else. But I thought Nourzad looked pretty good. So I appreciate that, the anecdote that's there, that we are seeing Hunter Nourzad work in a little bit more at guard with the backup offensive line, with the second-string offensive line. So I love that about, these first 4 practices or so, these observations that we're seeing from some of the people that are out there. Also bringing up, Jalen Royals, talking about George Karlaftis and Josh Simmons and just a few others as well. And I appreciated hearing Dave Tobe, the special teams. We've talked about how, Jeffrey Bassa could be an impact on special teams this year for the Chiefs. We'll see how much of a special team impact he is this year. I hope he is. Dave Tobe had nothing but praise about him, said he's, his combination of IQ and speed, that he might be faster than anybody in coverage. But IQ and speed, that combo, he's a standout. And that's the guy that really comes to mind that's really standing out so far in these practices. And remember, Boss is a guy they got for free from the Eagles because the greatest GM that ever lived, that's never made a mistake, that runs circles around everybody, that plays 4D chess, not checkers, gave Brett Veach and the Chiefs a draft pick so they can move up to take somebody the Chiefs were not taking. I mean, just brilliance. Absolute brilliance there. I mean, have we ever seen a maneuver like that before? I mean, just running circles around the NFL. What is Brett Veach doing? What an idiot. He got schooled. He moved back a spot to take the guy he was already taking to get an extra draft pick, in which it turns out to be Jeffrey Bassa. Every single play that Bassa makes this year is a play that who knows if somebody that was in his spot would have made, because he'd be on a different team if it wasn't for the greatest GM that ever lived giving the Chiefs a draft pick so they can move up and take a guy the Chiefs weren't going to take anyway. Brilliant. Just absolute brilliance. My God, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, just the uncanny ability to just steal so many different picks from so many different GMs. Unbelievable. What are the odds of that? Just crazy. I wanted to play this clip from Sam Munson. This thing, Sam Munson was talking about this the other day. And the conversation that's going on about Patrick Mahomes, Ted Wynn, we had him on from The Athletic on Tuesday, and I asked him, like, is he still the standard? And he said something that I thought was really interesting and said, when I started doing this piece on the Chiefs, getting back to having the explosive plays that have been missing, he said, I sort of went into it thinking that Mahomes had taken a step back and other quarterbacks had sort of caught him, or maybe Josh Allen has surpassed him and all of that. And he said, just from the surface level, looking at it and then studying it and looking a little more closely and seeing what he did last year, I came away saying, no, he's still Patrick Mahomes. He's still Patrick Mahomes. When you dive deeper and not just have the, idiotic Twitter response of Mahomes is a check down Charlie and, system quarterback, and the NFL's figured him out, and, he's taken a step back and everybody and these other quarterbacks have passed him. This is a guy that thought maybe that was the case until he went in to do a deeper dive for this story. And Sam Munson, offers this in his view of Patrick Mahomes. We have Sam Munson on from time to time. Does a great job in his podcast with Steve Palazzolo. But here he is talking about what separates Patrick Mahomes and what people miss and what gets lost in the arguments back and forth of Mahomes this, Mahomes that, is what he does in the postseason, and that innate ability to take his game to the next level. And Sam Munson presents it from a specific thing that Mahomes does once the playoffs get here.
The big thing that changes is he simply stops making mistakes in the playoffs. Like, whatever focuses him or concentrates him, once it gets real, once there's no safety net anymore, Mahomes simply stops making errors. And that shows up most in turnover-worthy plays, where generally in his career, he's reasonably prone to them. So his career regular season turnover-worthy play rate is 2.7%. Just fine, not spectacular. His career postseason turnover-worthy play rate is 1.7%. So he goes from like middle of the pack to basically the best quarterback in the NFL in terms of not putting the ball in harm's way. And remember, there's a chunk of that time where he couldn't move. Like he's hobbling around on a busted leg on a bad high ankle sprain and could barely run around. Like this guy just simply stops making errors in the postseason.
I love the sound effects that they have with the video that they put along with it as he's, talking and doing this breakdown, and they, tweet this video out about Sam Munson talking about Patrick Mahomes and the plays that they're showing in the background. But while they're showing the plays and they go from play to play, then you also hear the whoo, whoo. And I feel like things are being thrown at Sam. So it's a new sport. It's giving a take while dodging a baseball. No, what I think about Mahomes, and one of the things that makes him great is his ability to, eliminate some of those turnover-worthy plays in the post. Whoa! Missed me. Turnover-worthy plays in the postseason. He's not a guy that, he cuts his rate from 2.7% down to 1.7%. He's not turning the ball over. He's just, which I like that he brought that up because it really helps my argument that I had last year with the idiots on Twitter that talk about the penalties and people that say that, well, the Chiefs were helped out by the referees. And evidence of that is that the penalties go down in the playoffs, that they are the most penalized team during the regular season, and then other teams playing the Chiefs commit more penalties than Kansas City. This is the evidence that the officials are helping the Chiefs. Well, one, then they're not helping the Chiefs during the regular season? Well, it matters when the penalties happen, not the total number of penalties, you big idiot, you big dummy. Well, what about these penalties in the fourth quarter that didn't happen? Yeah, but it's about all of the penalties. It's the totality of the penalties. Because, penalties in the first quarter okay, now we're just doing this circular argument. I feel like you're not understanding and you're missing your own point that you're making, and you're kind of moving the goalposts here. But when people talk about, and bring this up, when you're in an argument or a conversation and somebody wants to say how the officials help the Chiefs, and the evidence of that is the turnover or the penalties in the postseason that drop by, a decent number from the regular season. That look at all of these teams that are more penalized than the Chiefs in each of these games. Clearly the officials are helping them. Just point out the turnovers that the Chiefs commit during the regular season versus the turnovers they don't commit in the postseason. Patrick Mahomes' turnover-worthy play percentage, 2.7% in the regular season. In his career in playoffs, it's 1.7%. It's a massive shift down or up, whichever way you want to view it, because the Chiefs raise their level of play. It's why they are not penalized as much as other teams. Some teams get into the playoffs and the moment is big. The moment's too big. And you get beat by this guy, you get beat by that guy. Also, some schemes are a little bit better. Spagnuolo may have some other things for an offense scheme-wise that they weren't showing, so it's an unscouted look. And now this offensive lineman gets beat by Jones and they're trying to hold, or this cornerback gets beat by a pretty good route and they hold. It's an unscouted look or whatever. Same thing on the offensive line, or the Chiefs' offense and some penalties on defense. Nobody can explain the turnover factor because that's not refs induced. Nobody wants to touch that. It's the penalties are the reason the refs are helping the Chiefs, obviously because they go down in the playoffs. But turnovers go down too. That doesn't matter. We're not talking about that. We're only talking about penalties. But the turnovers show you the level of play that the Chiefs get to, the level of focus they get to, how refined their play is, and the game plan is when it's the biggest moment. When the biggest moments arrive, they play their best football. It didn't happen in the Super Bowl, but it did along the way to get there. And it has in the playoffs, and it did against the Eagles 3 years ago or 2 years ago. It happened against the 49ers 2 years ago, and it didn't happen against the Eagles last year, but it definitely happened against the Texans and the Bills in the divisional and the AFC Championship round. They played some of their best football against the Bills. Mahomes played one of his best games he's ever played against the Bills. It wasn't the refs that helped them win. In fact, it was the refs that helped the Bills stay in the game, quite frankly. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. a development out of Las Vegas with a defensive tackle that may have been a Kansas City Chief if some things had changed, but also I think is a great example of the strategy the Chiefs are going about being the strategy to continue moving forward to keep the dynasty rolling. More Zone coming up next. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Coming up in about 15 minutes or so, we've got the cuts before this week's worth of shows are over. I want to get into the conversation around Christian Wilkins and what's happened in Las Vegas, but Buster Olney putting this out just a little bit ago as we hear that Ryan McMahon traded to the New York Yankees. Josh Naylor last night traded to the Seattle Mariners. Gregory Soto today from Baltimore traded to the New York Mets, reliever. But Buster Olney writing this, the Diamondbacks informed other teams in the past, I'm reading this because most people thought Eugenio Suarez was going to be the guy that the Yankees were going to land or at least make a strong run to get. And by them going after Ryan McMahon, who knows what that means for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So here we go. Buster Olney. The Diamondbacks informed other teams in the past that they would probably be sellers. But even after trading Josh Naylor to Seattle, it's unclear just how far Arizona will go. If the D-backs decided to go all in on selling, they could reshape their organization significantly by moving free agents to be Merrill Kelly, Zach Gallen, Lourdes Gurriel, and of course, Eugenio Suarez. The perception of other front offices is that Diamondbacks owner Ken Kendrick does not want to sell, especially with the Dodgers drifting back toward the pack in the NL West. And as of Thursday night, Suarez wasn't even officially on the market. The Diamondbacks, who reached the World Series in 2023 after winning just 84 games during the regular season, won their first 3 games after the All-Star break, but have subsequently lost 3 in a row. What some rival evaluators believe is that if the Diamondbacks sell, it'll be because of a nudge from the front office. Arizona has been extensively scouting other organizations in preparations for a possible sell-off. Interesting to hear that, according to Buster Olney, Suarez was not even on the market. Still isn't on the market right now. Even as Josh Naylor was sold, Suarez not on the market. And maybe that's why the Yankees went ahead and said, we want somebody right now. And the Diamondbacks were saying, we're going to hold off for a little bit and see what we do over the next few games because maybe we're not going to be sellers. Maybe we'll, I don't know, turn around and buy. Arizona's 10 games back of the Dodgers. So the whole talk about the Dodgers sliding back towards the pack does not really matter when it comes to Arizona. They are 5 games out of the wild card with 4 teams in front of them. They're essentially the spot that the Royals are in. Royals are 4.5 games out with 4 teams ahead of them. Arizona's 5 games out with 4 teams ahead of them. They have a number of players on expiring contracts, Naylor, Suarez, and then Kelly and Zach Gallen, that they could move. And as Buster Olney said, maybe significantly reshape their organization. But their owner does not want to sell. And if they do sell, apparently it will take some nudging from the front office to be able to do that. But if Suarez isn't even on the market right now, how do they know what the return is going to be? Unless the return is he ain't on the market, but unless you just completely blow us away, then we'll trade him. To the point that it seems like the Yankees went, oh, that's cool, we'll go get Ryan McMahon then. Yes, Suarez is a better player, certainly a better hitter, but not for what it's going to cost to get him. And maybe even if he's not available, then what's the point? Then if Suarez really isn't available, and what the Yankees may be doing as well is looking at it and saying, 5-6 days from now, when the trade deadline gets here next Thursday, like teams may be holding out and saying, look, we're going to get Suarez. We're going to give up all this for Suarez. We're going to go get Suarez. And by the time that happens and the Diamondbacks win a few games and Suarez isn't on the market, Ryan McMahon has been traded somewhere else. Michael Garcia being mentioned by a few teams, or at least a few reporters in Major League Baseball, those that covered the game. Most of that has been connected with the Yankees. That's not going to happen now with Ryan McMahon being acquired by the New York Yankees. But if Suarez is not available, it does make Michael Garcia more valuable. Because if the Royals are willing to move Michael Garcia, then he would be the best third baseman now available, third baseman / shortstop. That would be available for teams that were looking for help on the left side of the infield. They'd have to make it worth the while for the Royals. And the Royals would have to know, and they would have to make an assessment, over the next 3, 4, 5 days of what Maikel Garcia is over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years for him. Because to me, there is a little bit of concern that since his last home run, which was 29 games ago, the last home run that Maikel Garcia hit 29 games ago, he's OPSing at 570. It's 29 games OPSing at 570. Now, remember last year he was one of, if not the worst qualified hitters in all of baseball, was Maikel Garcia, OPSing at 614. Missed 44 points lower. 29-game stretch as opposed to an entire season last year. But you've got an entire season of last year, and then you've got an amazing April and May. But since June, he's OPSing at 710. So that's 42 games. Batting .259, getting on at .309. Better than what it was last year when he batted .230 and got on base at .280. Good night, man. Getting on base at .280 for a guy that played every day. Oh, but he made up for it by only slugging .330. The last 42 games since June. Amazing April and May. But since June, .259 or .260, .309, .401, .706 or .710 OPS for Maikel Garcia. 710 is much better than the 614 that he had last year, 100 points better. But is that who Maikel Garcia is moving forward? And if they believe that's who he is moving forward, can they maximize value for him right now if a team wants to give you some significant pieces for a guy that could play third base, second base, or shortstop? And you're producing and you're presenting, I should say, the numbers of this dude's a 300 hitter and just made an all-star game. He's hitting these home runs at Kauffman. Like, this guy's playing at Kauffman and hitting home runs. Imagine if he was in your ballpark. Insert team here, depending on what ballpark that may be. So the Suarez development could change a lot for other teams. I wanted to mention, before we take a break and get the cuts going in about 6-7 minutes or so, the Christian Wilkins news coming out of Las Vegas, that this is going to be, is it Andrew Brandt that always says there will be lawyers? This is one that there will be lawyers. Christian Wilkins last year signed a 4-year, $110 million contract with $85 million of that guaranteed. Last year is a huge free agent acquisition by the Raiders. 5 games in, he hurts his foot. He breaks his foot, it's a Jones fracture. Rehabbing, coming back, whatever was going on, it was not responding. According to reports, the Raiders wanted him to go get surgery this offseason. He has said no, according to reports, that the drama between the two. And the Raiders then have said, we're releasing him and voiding $35.2 million of guaranteed money for Christian Wilkins because of his, whatever terminology, of staying in shape in the future and all that stuff. The disagreement on the rehab there. I don't know what type of player Christian Wilkins is. I don't know if this is a front office issue that Christian Wilkins is in the right here or the Raiders are in the right here. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But this is where you get into well-run organizations that have had their troubles in the past, and organizations that are just simply bad. The Raiders have had their troubles in the past. I don't know if they're simply bad anymore because of how we've seen them go about their business in getting Geno, hiring Pete Carroll, drafting seems better. There are organizations that are just bad, and if it wasn't for the change in front office and ownership and stuff like that, with Tom Brady joining in, it'd be a little bit different. I'd view it as this is just a bad organization. But remember last year, the Chiefs signed Chris Jones, and then the Raiders signed Christian Wilkins. And the conversation that came out was the Raiders were going to do whatever it took to get Chris Jones if he was on the open market. They were going to pay Chris Jones whatever he wanted. And then we were discussing, okay, so would the Chiefs, how much could they save by signing Christian Wilkins if Chris Jones goes to the Raiders? Is Christian Wilkins a good a secondary player, consolation prize for losing out on Chris Jones and Chris Jones wanting too much money? But the strategy the Chiefs have taken, traded Joe Thuney, but the strategy they have taken, re-signing Nick Bolton, re-signing Trey Smith, extension for George Karlaftis, Chris Jones signing him, continuing to sign him and keep him around. I think they'll get something done with Trent McDuffie. The strategy the Chiefs have gone with is not really we're going to go out and make our big splash in free agency. They went and got Jawan Taylor. That hasn't necessarily worked out, especially for the money. They went and got Tyrann Mathieu. That worked out. They went and got Justin Reed. That worked out. It's not a free agent, but they traded for Kadarius Toney. That did not work out. Longer term, Super Bowl, certainly that helped. But this is where, when you get into bringing guys that you just don't know, you bring him into an organization, you bring him into the Chiefs, you bring in a free agent, no idea what that guy's going to be like. Hopefully you would do your due diligence if you're going to give him $110 million, but clearly there's a disconnect between him and the front office in how you would expect him to go about his business. If Christian Wilkins were on the Chiefs his entire career, and this happened on the Chiefs, this injury, I don't know if the same thing would be going on, because we've seen Chiefs players in the past have disagreements with the trainers and rehab and stuff like that with the Chiefs. We've seen that happen before. But certainly the Raiders couldn't have imagined that bringing in Christian Wilkins and having this disagreement on rehab would result in your big offseason acquisition last year that was going to help you with your defense and Max Crosby moving forward was going to be your Chris Jones. That a year later, not only are you releasing him, but now there's a grievance from the NFLPA filed against you. This thing's going to have to happen in arbitration or court to figure out the money that you're going to owe Christian Wilkins. And if you lose, you owe him all that money guaranteed, which is going to be a hit to the salary cap for you. As opposed to, you start getting in the open market of free agents where if the Chiefs have said, we're going to try to save a little bit of money here. We're going to let Chris Jones walk and we're going to go get Christian Wilkins. No idea what that's going to be. But you know who Chris Jones is. You know who Trey Smith is. You know who Creed Humphrey is. You know who Nick Bolton is. You know George Karlaftis. You understand these guys' personality. And they're the ones you're willing to give the money to. Because guys that you don't really necessarily align with, not giving the money to. And in fact, releasing. Kadarius Toney, got to go. Not that they moved on from Joe Thuney from that standpoint, but, you got to make a decision, Joe Thuney or Trey Smith. They choose Trey Smith. You get into this market of big money guys that are your huge acquisition, and you run the risk of it blowing up in your face. Russell Wilson to the Broncos blew up in their face. Deshaun Watson to the Browns blew up in their face. These huge acquisitions. We talked about all the money that was spent in 2022 by the AFC West and the Buffalo Bills because the Chiefs were ripe for the taking because they traded Tyreek Hill. Drafting, keep your own. Draft, keep your own. That's what the Chiefs have been able to do because the first part has worked out. Keeping your own when they suck doesn't make a great strategy. Drafting well, re-signing the ones that deserve the money, and then replenishing in the draft as well. Not re-signing Turk Wharton because it was too much money, but then go and bringing in and finding Omar Norman Lott to hopefully fill that role. And if Omar Norman Lott is amazing over the next 4 years, then maybe that's the transition from Jones to the next defensive tackle. Not Jones' money, but maybe helping mitigate the loss of number 95 ultimately at one point in his life will not be playing football anymore. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. We got the cuts coming up on the other side of the break. More Zone next. All right, wrapping things up here on this Friday edition of The Zone. The program comes up when we are done here, coming up at 2 o'clock. Little best of bonus hour coming your way tonight. Royals 6 games remaining before the trade deadline. Tonight, Michael Wacha taking on Gavin Williams. The Guardians are a game and a half up on the wild card on the Royals. Royals 4.5 games back of the wild card in that final spot, but they are a game and a half behind the Cleveland Guardians. They can pass yet another team this weekend, which maybe puts them into a different light. We'll find out. But before we wrap up on this Friday, let's get the cuts going. What happened this week, what we've heard, what took place on, I don't know, this show, other shows. We'll find out. Take it away, Drake.
You would be of the opinion that they're going to sell?
Yes.
Okay. So you feel confident in that?
No.
I love Jeff Patty. He's going to
I'm so hungry I could eat Matt McMullen. You know. Yeah, I mean with Spags, you got to pay the cheese tax, man. It's
and these hot boy summer days.
I believe those were the phrases that they were given by teammates or somebody in PR to say hot boy summer and cheese tax and so hungry I could eat Matt McMullen.
Not only did he have the blonde hair, but he'd be over there.
No Adam Teicher, but that doesn't mean we're going to give you any less Chiefs talk. Teicher can wander around Colorado looking for Rocky Mountain streams and good weed.
Which is what he's doing.
Who's your daddy?
However.
ESPN is reporting this afternoon that the resignation came after an outside investigation hired by the union received documents this week showing Howell charged the union for 2 visits to strip clubs, including a $738.82 car service that took him from the airport to one of the clubs.
My favorite part of that is the airport to the club. He lands.
Gotta get there.
I got to go right to the club, man.
Where can I take you, sir? To Kimbo's and Tata's.
God forbid a man have hobbies. Come on.
This little drop-ins by Kyle. They get you, man. They get you. Man, that's a great point. That is an absolute great point. The airport to the club. You know what? He got to the airport and he said, I've never been here. Is there a place where some gentlemen can get together? Is there a club for like gentlemen like myself? Take me to the nearest place that is a club gathering for gentlemen.